Yo, are we live?
Looks like we are live.
Looks like we are live. And it's one of those weeks where I didn't write the tweet yet. I'm running late. It's 6:52. I did not even write the tweet yet. So you're all going to ride along with me. If you're watching this later, if you're watching this not live, probably want to jump forward 8 minutes. I'm about to do the pre-show right now. Where we start early, you're going to hear my voice really quick. Very unprofessional. It's okay though. Because I have to get that link. Go on to Twitter. I'm going to move this light really quick, so it'll be dim for a second. I wish I could play music, but it's all copyrighted, so I can't. That's what you can thank the government for, I guess. I have a really good title for this episode. The Pilgrimoire. The Pilgrimoire. Good thing I said that cool after coming up with it. Thanksgiving, week, chat, source, symbology, edition. It is not exciting to watch me type. Sorry, I'm running late. Just 1 second. I gotta get the picture in. If anyone's in the chat, thank you for waiting 1 second. I am running late because I had to help. I had to help my wife with something. Not gonna lie, I'm not gonna come up with some crazy story. That's just what happened. But it's fine. Everything's all set up here. Let's do it. Cool. Should I throw the turkey in there? I'm going to throw the TV and the turkey in, and then we'll get this going. I was just thinking, I have a new book. I don't know if it's going to be useful for us, though. Maybe I'll pull it out. What's up? Tyler Prime is in the chat. How's it going, bro? This is the first year that I'm doing the show, so I don't know what to do with holidays. I'm like, oh shit, it's Thanksgiving. Oh, I cursed too. I'm gonna lose my G rating. But I'm like, oh yeah, it's Thanksgiving. I should like do something about that, right? Let's make sure there's no typos in this. Boom. It's been tweeted. What's up? Everyone's here. I move my windows around. Oh wait, I don't want to close that window. I like the black YouTube window where your guys' writing is on black. It seems a little cooler, a little more professional. How are you guys doing? I'm doing pretty good. It's still craziness. It's still madness here at the studio. Last week, I'm going to throw some gloves on. I'm going to make sure I got everything together. Pretty much guaranteed that I won't have something I need ready because normally I start getting ready at like 6:15 or like 6:30. I literally just, you know, I've had a lot of like weird jobs in my life, and often they involve like being ready at like a specific point in time. So it's kind of conditioned me to be like super early. So literally sometimes I just get in here. It's like 6:15, and I'm just setting everything up, and then I just sit here for like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, just being like, okay, what am I gonna need? The ruler. Oh, the ruler, and like just making sure I have everything. But now I'm just coming a little late. It's not a big deal though. I'm gonna move the lights back. So almost guaranteed that I'll forget something along the way, but that kind of makes it more fun. It's kind of like live, right? Pretty far ahead, but any plans for 1 year show anniversary? No, but I should do something crazy. I'm getting ready. So we're on season 2 right now, and I think that eventually, you know, I was thinking about it because eventually season 2 implies like the existence of like a season 3 and like other seasons, right? Obviously, I'm drinking coffee too right now. So, like, eventually, I'll step it up in some way. I don't know if I said this before, but I'm thinking we'll transition to season 3 when I get a second camera. That's going to be like the next level. But the problem is, I don't know if I mentioned all this to you guys before. I thought about getting a second camera, but the issue is it would be for close-ups, and then it would have to be like angled so it's not on the camera screen. So I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do about that. We'll figure that out later. But any plans? No. Honestly, I'm still realizing that like holidays exist in terms of running the show. So that is the only thing I'm thinking about so far. We'll do something crazy though. Eventually I want to use my easel too. Like I have this easel over here and it's insane. I mean, I don't think I posted a picture of it on Twitter. It's literally, I mean, if I had to guess, I bet it's over like $1,000. It's insane. It's got this thick rope and you crank it. Look, you can hear it. Watch, I'll crank it right now. You'll hear the crank. It's like a freaking boat over here. So I thought I could set it up so the camera's looking at the easel and then we can get some easily stuff going on. If I get another camera to it, which I will eventually, I mean, it's just whenever I want to drop the cash on it, then we can do some still life stuff. I have a plan for like some classical drawing stuff where like we'll look at the still life and then I'll be drawing and painting. Anyway, though, it's not really what you asked me, but it's kind of what it made me think of. So no. And then also with the holidays, I'm kind of like, you know, this morning I was like, oh, Thanksgiving, like I should kind of plan out Thanksgiving stuff. But then I was like, well, you know, it's the end of the month. That's when we're supposed to do like the chat source symbolism stuff, which I really enjoy doing, where I take suggestions from you guys. So I was like, do I plan it? Thanksgiving? Do I paint a turkey? Am I going to paint a turkey? I mean, it's kind of dope, honestly, but should I do it? I don't know. So I kind of left it up in the air. Oh, word? Thanks, Mark. I got a super chat. Super chat at the start of the show. Already. It's committed to it being a great show. Thanks, man. I'm always very humbled by the super chats. Anyway, pre-show aesthetica stuff going on. Not really. I mean, right now the studio, you can imagine, is full of boxes. Last week I said it was full of boxes, and I've been saying that. And I kind of was worried I was overhyping it. You know, I was like, am I like kind of just like hamming it up? Like I don't want to lie to you guys ever. You know, it's like the studio is not really full of boxes, but now it's full of boxes. I'm getting like 80 frames delivered, which is way more than I've ever gotten delivered ever. And all this other stuff too to like get ready for packing and all this stuff. So it should be insane. I have no idea how I'm going to get everything done for the next week. I'm probably just not. But we'll see how it goes. I got the book cover down. My book cover, obviously. Maybe not obviously, but I got the book cover. It looks sick. I made like 4 or 5 different ones until I finally honed in on the real one. Yeah, we have what someone dubbed the serial killer gloves. They're definitely not as aesthetic. I'm going to move the light a little bit because it's blown out. Nice. Normally I test the lighting before the show, but like I said, I was running late. I just ran out of the blue ones, and I had to go to the supermarket, and I had to get these. So we'll have the blue ones again next week, but for now we're going to roll... We're going to roll with the clear gloves. I know they're a little bit creepier. I could pretend it was like a spooky fall thing, but honestly it really wasn't. Okay, 7. Let's wait a few more minutes. We'll kill a few minutes right now. I just want to make sure people kind of get a chance to get in. I kind of started late, and then we'll get going. I say that, but I think I said this before. I never look at the number of people here, but I just feel spiritually like I should wait a minute or two. Let's see, what can I show you guys around here? Honestly, it's all been digital. It's all been digital stuff. So there's not really much for me to show off. I'm like looking around. I haven't even done my test prints yet. I'm doing that soon. I got this Servite rosary prints that I'm going to do. That's going to be really sick. So I got this bag over here of like 20 of these like Servite rosaries. I don't know if you guys know what that is. I didn't know what that was. It's like a rosary where it's like 7 by 7 instead of 5 sets of 10. It's 7 sets of 7. It's for this like particular prayer. So that should be really dope. I got these dark gray frames. I don't think I showed these off last week, so I'll show them off this week. Did I show them last week? I don't think I did. So I got these frames. Here, I'll show you guys actually. It's perfect. Let me grab one of these over here. Perfect. All right. Cool. So yeah, so I've been rocking these frames. And you can see these are like this light gray, right? And I really liked how these look. They kind of perfectly fit the colors. It's really difficult actually to fit the colors of the print to the frame. I don't know if you would think that that would be like something you would have to think about, but it's kind of funny. I've been like a painter and an artist my whole life, but I never had that issue until I got here. And then I was like, oh dude, like I have this brown frame over here and you can kind of see, I'm not going to take it out of the frame right now, but you can kind of see I got these brown frames and they just don't really, it doesn't really pop as hard. It's like, yeah, it's kind of tight, I guess, but When you get the good frame in, that's the style. So I hit my frame guy up. It's this Russian guy who emails me in like very broken English, honestly. It's really funny. First time I PayPal'd him a large amount of money, I was like, wow, I'm definitely about to get scammed right now by like the Russian mafia or something. But it's legit. And he only had these dark gray frames, and before I saw them, I was like, oh, the dark gray. But now that I saw them, it kind of looks similar, but it is different. You can see it is like a little different. It's different if you're like visually autistic, honestly, which I am, obviously. But I kind of like it. I'm feeling it. And it looks dope with the rosary too. So I got like 80 of these like dark gray frames coming in, and then I have like 10 of these light. You can see them when they're next to each other. You can see how different they are. So that's kind of dope. Otherwise, the book, and then there's something else I'm forgetting. Oh, I could show you guys. Nah, it's fine. I want to keep it under wrap and key. The other thing I'm doing, I'll tell you guys, is I'm doing this print of a bunch of cryptids. I have this print that I'm going to drop where it's. Oh, I'll show you guys one of them. Alright, so I got all these test prints. I put it on Patreon, otherwise I would show all you guys, but show you guys all of them. I'm holding like 8 of them here, but I'll show you guys one. I'll show you guys one of the ones I'm not going to use. So basically what I did, here you can see all the little teasers. You can see I print all these different colors out on this like paper. So I want to see how it should look. But I'll show you guys one of the ones I'm not going to use. So here I got this one going on. So this is not the color scheme it's going to be. This one's pink, obviously. We didn't go with pink. I actually went with like a super dark color scheme. Don't screenshot this and show anybody. This is just for you guys. I'll bring it up a little bit. But I'm basically going to drop this print where it's all these cryptids and there's this like angel coming down. And then this guy is holding this cross and he's like coming through this like fallen world of like cryptids and stuff. But this is not the colors. This is like blown out. It's like really light pink and stuff like that. So this is what I'm hoping to drop next week with a bunch of like stickers and stuff like that. And I'm not going to refocus the camera, but it's on this super thick like watercolor paper, and I kind of got this like texture going on. Let me see. Since I brought it out, I'm going to just bring up the autofocus really quick. Let's see, will it focus? Can I get it to focus? Yeah, nice. So it should be pretty sick. In case people are coming in right now, this is not the color scheme I'm going to use. I'm just very self-conscious about that. But let's see. Yeah, so you can kind of see. And then what I'm trying to figure out, in case you want a window into like what the studio situation is I kind of have to have a print to go with it that says what they are, you know, but I'm not really sure how I'm going to do that, honestly. And now I have like 1 week before I have to drop stuff for the holidays, but whatever. That's how it is, artist life, just figuring things out. Such a hard life I lead. Not really. All right. It's about that time. It is 7:05. And you guys know the slogan. I don't like making people that are on time wait for people that are late. So we are about to do this. I'm going to reconfigure the camera and we are going to get it going. I'm pushing that intro button right about now. Boom. All right, taking away the sign because we are not almost ready. We are now officially ready. How's it going, everybody? Thank you so much for being here. I'm just configuring the camera and stuff like that, a little last minute tweaking. All right, perfect. So here we are. It is the last week of November. Powerful. I guess it's, you know, honestly, I didn't really think about it, but I guess it's a powerful end to our sojourn through the fall months. How's it been? Normally I go so hard on the fall art. This year I was doing more like professionally, not professionally, but I was doing more like tight, coordinated stuff. Normally I'm like busting out a ton of like fall sketches, but this year I kind of was more absorbed in the finished work. I don't feel like it passed me by. I feel like I got a lot of fall stuff out there, but fall is such a good season for art. That is transcultural, in case you guys don't know that. In Japan, fall is like pretty much, you know, the poet's like favorite season. Haikus have to be about a season. I think fall is like the one that's used the most by like a large margin. So everyone's into fall, but this is the last week of it. So if you were needing to get some oranges out, some yellows out, some things like that in your life, you should do it now, because people will say, well, technically fall ends on this day, but you know, once it's December, it's not fall anymore. Sorry, you're just gonna have to accept that reality. So here we are for our last fall week. Maybe we'll get some fall colors going. Maybe we won't. That's kind of up to you guys on this episode. But before we get into all that, oh yeah, intro music, Painted Worlds. Band's called Painted Worlds Painting Show. It all fits together. Check them out. They're actually really good, so I enjoy showing them every week. Otherwise, so just so you can get your gears turning right now, in case you have never been here before or have never been here for the last show of the month. The last show of the month is Chat Source Symbolism Edition, where basically I take the direction entirely from you guys in the chat. So if you want to tell me something, you have to see, like Pedro did a few messages ago. It says @Owen Cyclops. Then it comes up orange on my screen, and I see it. If you don't do that, I'm not going to see it. But basically what we do is I literally just take the direction for what we're painting and drawing entirely from you guys. So it should be a pretty good time. And sometimes people don't have suggestions immediately, but for that reason, I have a ton of symbolism books here. Maybe we'll bust out some of the atypical ones. Normally we've been going pretty hard on Book of Symbols, which I really enjoy, obviously. This is kind of like the mothership of symbolism literature here in the studio. So we got all different kinds of stuff in here. We did one where it was, wow, I really just opened to the womb page. Are you serious? I was going to say, we did one where I just opened to random numbers and pages. I actually had a random number generator, and we got like vulva and all this like female sexual stuff. So I don't know, I just opened to womb in this book again too. Maybe this book has like some weird energy going on. I have no freaking idea. But I also got some other stuff here. I got traditional symbols. This is a good one. Maybe we'll use that one. I got classic over here, signs and symbols in Christian art. You've seen all this before if you've been here before on the show. I also have this one, which we haven't used before. It's called a Dictionary of Bible Types. I think I've shown this book, but we haven't really gone into it. In case you don't know, types are like when stuff in the Old Testament prefigures or symbolically represents stuff in the New Testament. So that's pretty dope. This could be pretty good to go into. It's got like fan and gnat, glass, leopards. Everyone loves it. So maybe we'll use this. That could be interesting too. Or maybe we'll just do straight up Thanksgiving stuff. That is honestly up to you guys. But you know the deal. Someone even asked, what book is this? We didn't start the book thing yet, but we do the weird book intro. And actually I found two really cool books that I'm gonna plug right now. Yeah, it actually would make sense if the Divine Feminine possessed the symbolism book, because it's a Jungian book, so it's very much so like on that page. That's what Tyler said in the chat. It's true. Anyway, so I was going around and I actually found two really cool books. I found a few really cool books. I'm wondering, you know, actually, I'm going to do something I didn't think I was going to do. I'm just going to grab this book that's across the room really quick, literally running around a room full of boxes, because I posted a picture on Twitter, but it's just so tight. It's just so tight. And if we're doing Thanksgiving episode, it's like a light Thanksgiving episode. Like everyone's not in pilgrim gear, but maybe there's like a turkey around. Anyway, I found this book. It's called The Christian History of the Constitution. And it's huge. It was like just a few dollars, actually. But it's pretty awesome. I haven't even really poked into it, but it has all these really cool maps and like stuff like that. Like origin and background of the Constitution of the United States. And it goes back, and it's like Locke and the Magna Carta and Calvin and Luther. It's obviously Protestant style because we're looking at America stuff. It goes back to Rome, Greece, Mount Sinai, and the Ten Commandments. It's pretty cool, actually. Some of it is like facsimile reproductions of like old texts that relate to the origin of the Constitution and stuff like that. But there's also all these other really dope maps in here. And I'm definitely going to do something with this. It just so relates to my vibe of like weird American Christian energy going on, like over here. I haven't looked through it. I didn't really think I would show you guys, but it's just such like early American Christian energy. Even just like the way the type is set and like the font and stuff like that. So I don't know. I thought I would just plug it, but I don't really have too much to say about it. I just thought it was kind of cool. Samuel Adams, Rights of the Colonists, November 1772. This time of year always makes me think of like early American Christianity, the Puritans, and all that good stuff. Anyway, though, just thought I'd show you guys. It's mostly just a cool artifact. The books are normally cool artifacts. It's not really like academic. We are still an art show, after all. Anyway, though, I wanted to plug, where did I put them? Cool. So I did find 2 other cool books. I'll just plug these really quick. So I found this while I was poking around some dusty, weird store. It's called The Illustrated Chronicles of Matthew Paris, Observations of 13th Century Life. And it's this really cool book. Again, I haven't even read it yet, so I don't have too much to say about it. But this guy is just literally talking about life in like the 13th century and drawing these pictures and like illustrating what his life is like in the 13th century. So I saw this and I was like, dude, obviously we literally have to obtain that for the studio right now. I mean, look at just even these castles. Look at even just the way the castle is drawn. It's really dope. Maybe we'll do an episode on this or something. It's kind of cool. I don't know if they had Thanksgiving in the 1300s, but if they did, this guy probably had a lot to be thankful for, what with illustrating his life and stuff, instead of being like some humble like gong farmer or something. Anyway, kind of a cool little find. Again, it's an artifact. Oh, the medieval maps are just so dope. I mean, right? They're just so tight. It's such a cool aesthetic. But anyway, the real thing I wanted to plug, 3 books. 3 books for the Weird Book intro. It's a record. Is this Dictionary of Subjects and Symbols in Art. So if you really watch the show, if you've been here kind of the whole time, and you've heard me talk about the symbolism books, you know that my complaint, my number 1 issue, is that they never have a reverse symbolism dictionary, which is what you actually need. There's a ton of books where you can go, oh, a peacock, what does that represent? And go in and you open up to peacock and it says, oh, a peacock represents immortality and medieval stuff for this reason. That's great. But you never have a reverse symbolism dictionary where you can go in and say, oh, let me look up justice, and it will direct you to how justice is represented in art. Or you can say virginity and see how virginity is represented in art, or things like that. And this is as close as I've gotten to finding that. This has particular items like lance and lamp and stuff like that, but you can also go in, and here's a perfect example. There's Last Judgment, and it will list out the Last Judgment, or let's see if it has justice. It'll be the test. I haven't gone through it yet. H-I-J, so justice. Let's see if it has justice. Yo, it has John Chrysostom in this book. That is sick, actually. Wow, that's really dope. But let's see if it has justice. Oh, Jonah, John the Evangelist. So it has pictures and stuff too. That's really tight. Judgments. Let's see. Is it going to pass the test? Judgment of Paris. Judgment. Justice. Boom. Yeah, it does. That's awesome. So this is a true reverse symbol dictionary, and it goes in. It says the sword, scales, all that stuff. So it's a pretty cool find, actually. Maybe we'll use it for something. That could be kind of cool. But I was pretty stoked about this, and I picked it up also. And I find these in like old like furniture stores and like old thrift stores and stuff. I'm trying to get other people to go because honestly, if you're here, you're probably like kind of a weird guy. And a lot of the books, they're just going to like rot or like be done away with eventually, whether they're like heretical, historical books about like different parts of history. You know, like I found a book the other day in one of these stores that was like the history of the Crusades, but it was like a very pro-Crusades book. And it was obviously from like the 20s or 30s or something. And I was like, I need people that are cool to like find these books and like rescue them from like some horrible fate or something. So normally I go to stores that like don't really typically sell old books. If you go to like an old bookstore, everyone goes there and looks through them. But what you really want is you want like outside like a medium-sized city, someplace where women go to buy like clothes and furniture and stuff like that. That's actually really where you want to go to find cool old books like that. And that's normally what I do, actually, when I have a little free time, which is very rare. But I do it sometimes. I really see people think I play a persona online, but I'm actually that guy. Anyway, see what people are saying in the chat. I'm going to draw a little border here, and then we'll get it going. Same deal. It's chat source symbolism edition, so I'm going to take some direction from you guys in a minute. So if you want to start thinking of stuff, you probably should do it now. And like I said before, we can do it Thanksgiving style, or we could not. We can kind of do whatever, honestly. I kind of like the last show of the month because it kind of releases me from the confines of not planning. I enjoy planning the show. It releases me from my own set of symbols and imagery and things like that. Okay, so I'm just going to throw down this last border over here. Got to work within a border. Someone said the Divine Feminine. Oh, we did that one. Isidore said, hi, Owen. What's up, man? How's it going? Have you ever looked in George Washington? Have you ever looked in George Washington being saved by divine intervention multiple times during our revolution? Very interesting stuff. No, that's really awesome, though, actually. I used to be, possibly still am, the #1 proponent of esoteric George Washingtonism. I've actually gone to some pretty weird places to see weird George Washington artifacts. So I've been in the same room as some of his like very personal items, which is kind of cool. Drawing power from them, of course. I'm going to bring the camera down a little bit more. Let's make this like as big as possible. So no, that's dope. I should check that out, though. Today I pulled Judgment from my tarot card deck. Interesting. Who's the author of the Crusades book? I don't know. I can see if I can find out. I forgot right now, though. Okay. So let's do it. No one suggested anything, so if you want to suggest any symbols right now, you have like a minute. Literally 1 minute, and then we're just going to hit the ground running. In that 1 minute, what am I going to talk about right now? Well, I could pull up one of these books. But I guess I'll mention, since it's Thanksgiving, one of my favorite sort of Thanksgiving interesting things is like how the Pilgrims came here in terms of how it all is like interconnected. This is my little like 30-second Thanksgiving monologue. I really enjoy the kind of like theological history thing in the sense that it ties together all these things that you don't really think of as being related. Like I was thinking about, Pilgrims coming here and stuff, and I was thinking about, you have like Bloody Mary in England, and, she takes over, and you have these people kind of before her, but, I'm kind of like painting a very loose picture here, who, they were living in England, and England's going back and forth, like 1 minute it's Catholic, and then all of a sudden it's like Protestant, but it's not really even just like normal Protestant. All of a sudden it's like Calvinist. So it's kind of fun to imagine, like, you're some person in the English countryside, and you've been like Catholic, which is like pretty straightforward, like here's the rosary, here's the steps, you got to do X, Y, and Z. Then all of a sudden you're like supposed to be Calvinist, and then the people are telling you about like predestination and all this stuff that like doesn't really make sense to you because you're not like an academic. And also, even if you are an academic, it's just kind of like confusing because it has to do with like, you having agency but not really having agency because God has like predetermined the world and stuff, whatever. So your country's like been going back and forth, and then a lot of these exiles, which I learned, which I thought was kind of cool, actually went to Geneva. They went to Calvin's Geneva, and that's where they kind of got super jazzed up, being like, oh, dude, we can have a little Protestant, perfect city on a hill situation. Like, this is how our theology and society should go together. Like Calvin has this Geneva set up. This is tight. Then they went back to England, and then Mary came on, became Catholic. So just imagine these people like being bumped around and like pushed around and like going from place to place to place to place, and then all of a sudden they end up here in the New World. And it's just kind of an interesting like background. When I imagine those people, like when I see the paintings of like the Pilgrims on a rock, and like in the forest and stuff like that, I always kind of imagine like the theological backdrop of how Europe at this time, you had like not just the clash between like Protestantism and Catholicism, but you also had like within Protestantism, like Luther stuff and Calvin stuff, which is in and of itself has like oppositional forces, and all these people kind of like going around from place to place, and like Geneva and everything, like I just said. I don't know. It's just kind of, I think of it differently now after a few years of going so hard on like the historical theology stuff. That's my 1 minute Thanksgiving situation while I waited for people to possibly drop some symbols in the chat. But if you didn't, then we're just going to get going anyway, because it's about that time. Okay, first one, Peacock. I swear I was planning on suggesting this before you mentioned it. Nice. And fitting with the theme of the show, I don't like to look up every single symbol because kind of slows us down, honestly. I want to keep things moving and exciting. You can feel my excitement, hopefully. I would like that to transfer over, but we'll look up a few of them, and Peacock's a good one. Thanksgiving. Turkey, by the way, 100% is literally an American peacock. In case you never made that visual connection, a turkey is just a forest peacock. I mean, like, they literally are the same shape and everything, so it's kind of appropriate in a way. Let's see what this says. Peacock, solar, associated with tree and sun worship, also associated with the peony. It represents immortality. Nice, I didn't just make that up. Longevity and love. I don't know if it's going to say this, but in medieval times, there was a legend, maybe it's true, I don't know, that when a peacock died, its flesh would never decay. It would just lay there. Its flesh would never become corrupted, so it represented immortality. Longevity and love, a natural symbol of the stars in the sky, hence of apotheosis and immortality. Since it becomes restless before rain, it is associated with storms. Its rain dance is also associated with the spiral. Worldliness, pride, and vanity are comparatively modern attributes. That's funny. So we associate it with pride, but it says it's not really how it is back in the day. And then this one goes into all the different cultures and stuff like that. But let's jump to Christian. Immortality, resurrection, the glorified soul, since it renewed its plumage and its flesh was believed to be incorruptible, like I just said. The 100 eyes are the all-seeing church. It also, so that means like the dots on the tail are like related to eyes. It's kind of cool. The 100 eyes are the all-seeing church. It also symbolized the saints, since its tail was like a nimbus. Oh, so it's like a halo in the back. That's kind of dope too, actually. Maybe we'll use that. Surmounting an orb, it depicted rising above worldly things. The peacock's feather is an emblem of St. Barbara. That's really dope, actually. So that's what we're going to start with right now. It's perfect. So let's just jump in. And I guess color-wise, what I'm thinking this week. By the way, so for this, since I'm like obviously taking messages from the chat and stuff, if I miss your suggestion, eventually, you know, people are just typing while I'm painting and stuff. You can just say it again or something. I don't want people to feel like they're annoying me or something. It's definitely not the case. Let's just jump in. Let's kind of try and move quickly here. Normally I get sucked in to whatever the first suggestion is, and I kind of end up like painting it too long. But let's have that not be the case right now. Let's get some blues out, and I think color-wise what we're going to do this time is let's try and make the colors kind of like transitioning between fall and winter. I think that would be kind of dope because that's kind of the cusp that we're at right now. So maybe we'll get a little bit of winter colors in, mostly fall colors. Let's see how it goes. Peacock is a good, I mean, it's kind of a wintry color the way I'm going to paint it at least. So let's see. Whenever I paint a peacock, I feel like I kind of have a few options. I actually don't know in real life because I've painted it so many times. I'm like a medieval artist who has lost touch with how things really look because I've painted them too much. But I think the body of it is actually blue, right? And then the feathers behind it are the blue-green. Sometimes I mix it up. But either way, that's how we're going to paint it right now. So I'm also going to need a little bit of white paint. Where is my white? Oh, it's right here. Cool. I was like, out of all the tubes missing, I cannot have white missing. Cool. So let's do it this way. I'm just going to kind of sketch it in. Let's try and go a little faster and looser here. Let's try and up the excitement level a little bit. I might even use a bigger brush. Maybe not, though. So let's see. For the colors here, I'm going to use a color we don't normally use, which is Prussian blue. This is like the most like, I don't want to bias you against it and call it like a chemically blue, but it kind of is. Prussian blue always reminds me, if you go to like a museum and see like Egyptian stuff, it always reminds me of like faience. Faience is like this burnt quartz glaze that they would put over like artifacts in Egyptian times. Let's see, I'm going to grab a piece of paper right here. Let's see how it looks actually. Boom. I have some watercolor paper ready to go. So let's see if we can get the... So you see it's so dark, but then when you lighten it up, yeah, it's exactly what I was talking about. If you know the Egyptian artifacts I'm talking about, this is exactly the color that blue faience is. It's exactly this color. Sometimes they call it a Delft blue if you read like a really old book, but this will be good color for the background, and we'll work some like green into it of the peacock. But honestly, I'm just going to drop in the blue outline. Let's just go for it. And I liked what that said about a peacock surmounting a globe. Let's just drop it right in the center. So I'm going to kind of come down further than I normally would for the peacock's tail. It's going to look really dark, but I'll lighten it up, don't worry. Normally I would make it 180 flat, but we're going to change it up a little bit here. And I'm just going to kind of come in. Boom. Perfect. We'll get that kind of like calligraphic, yeah, perfect, flow of the color. These like hyper transparent colors, that's kind of how you want to use them in my opinion when you're going like illustration style. You kind of want them to go back and forth between really thick and dark and then letting the paper like shine through. We'll kind of just drop in, boom, these bumps in the back. I actually saw a peacock in real life one time in a very unlikely place. You see when you get the, even just right now, when you get the quality of the color, like that's really when you're using the color. And I guess what we're gonna do, let's do it this way. I'm gonna quickly just pull down the blue. I should really use a much bigger brush for this, but maybe it's faster if I just don't change. So let's pull down the blue a little bit. And then I'm going to come up from the bottom with like blue-green. I think that would look really, really sick. I was in New York City, of all places, and they have this cathedral there. If anyone here lives in New York, you got to go to St. John the Divine Cathedral. It's uptown. I think technically it's like one of the largest Gothic cathedrals in the world. I think it's like number 2 or 3 if you measure it by like area inside or like some really weird specific metric. Anyway, I was there and I was walking around. I think I was with my wife actually. Don't tell her I'm not sure that I was with her or not. I'm just kidding. I was with her. And we went to the back and there's like a gardeny area. And the gardeny area, yeah, this is tight. So I'm going to try and, it's too dark though. I'm going to try and come up with this like green-blue color. Yeah, that's almost peacock color. Let's see though. I want that fade to be better. So there's this part where it's like really surreal because it's like the Gothic cathedral architecture, but you're outside in uptown New York City. And there's like a dumpster. You know, it's like you're in an alley, but it's like half alley and then half church architecture. And like I said, there's like dumpsters and like, you know, garbage back there and stuff. You're still in New York. I like these colors that I'm getting, but it's too harsh, the mix between the two. And I turned this corner, and I know I said this like 3 or 4 times, but it just makes it more surreal. Literally in front of this dumpster, oh, this is so good, so good, is this albino peacock. It's this white peacock that's literally, just to repeat myself for a 4th time, in front of this dumpster in this alleyway in New York City. It was like one of the most surreal things ever. And I guess they just have this peacock that they let live around the grounds of New York City. I don't know how someone doesn't like kidnap it or something. But it was pretty crazy, honestly. And whenever I see peacocks, I think about that. Just like this time that I turned this corner in the city and like boom, was confronted with like this white peacock of all things. All right, let's see. Let's see. The body color I got here is a little dim, but I might just roll with it. I use this ultramarine blue. And it's really a cool blue. I think we'll just roll with it though. I think it'll look good. Let's see. Yeah, it'll be fine. It's a little bit cooler than I thought, but it goes with what I was saying before about the winter and everything like that. The question is, it's going to bleed a little bit if I bring it up into this wet, but I think it'll be cool. I think it'll look good. Yeah, this looks good actually. Cool. Nice. And I guess the head and everything, it's going to be a little bit more teardrop shaped than I thought. But I kind of like it. It's almost like one of those paisley shapes that you get. Yeah, that looks good. That's good. Nice. And then really quick, I didn't think about the eyes, as they called them, on the back of the peacock. Maybe I should grab the white. I'm very messily mixing colors, but I want to keep it moving. You know what I want? I want the eyes on the back of this peacock to like really sing out, to like really come out hard from the back of the peacock. So I'm going to use a warm green. All these colors here are cool. Maybe you can obviously see that. If you watch the show a lot, once you start in real life describing colors via their temperature, you're going to sound really smart. So all the colors here are cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the green, but you can see this green. I'm not just going to drop that on there. It's going to be like a little bit too much of a clash. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cool this green off a little bit with this white. I'm just going to grab some white. Essentially all white paint that you're ever going to use if you take up painting is going to be cool. The only warm white really is like a lead white, which obviously people don't use anymore. So I'm going to cool it a little bit with the green, but it still has that warm character underneath. It's a little too light for you to see what I'm doing. Now you can see. I'm just going to come in here and let's just do it. I'm going to go with kind of like an eye shape, mostly because of what we read. Boom. Perfect. Perfect. It's very soft when you get the wet in wet. When I say wet in wet, what I mean is that the paint on my brush is wet, and then also the paint underneath it is wet. So you get this kind of like soft effect. It's actually really nice. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. It's the painting ASMR. I need beak color. I need a little beak color really quick. Maybe we'll get it like American peacock style. We can get some woods and stuff in the background, or we could not. I'm not really married to anything, honestly. Boom. So I'm going to come in here. There's also some people in the Middle East. I think they're the Yazidi, but I'm not really sure, actually. Where the peacock is like one of their... Oh, fuck, I fucked up the yellow. I got blue in the yellow. Got blue in the yellow. Boom. So we'll throw down the beak. We'll throw down the sort of like dots underneath the peacock eyes, and then we'll keep it moving. And we can always come back. I want the whole thing to kind of develop like a Polaroid. Okay, I'm just going to go straight yellow on the beak, honestly. I should get a little white to like opaque it up a little bit. Let's see, I'm just going to do that. And then this is a good setup in the middle because we'll have the ball underneath the peacock. I don't know what color I'm going to make it. Maybe I'll ask you guys. And then we could put something above it. We got like the above option. That's kind of tight. Could be a crown. If I was drawing this on my own, that's what I would do. But that's not why I'm here right now. So I'm just going to throw in underneath here. We'll come in kind of quickly. Boom, boom. Nice. I love when you get the paint over the watercolor. It's such a good look. And then I don't want it to look too disjointed, so I'm just going to come back now that the yellow has been dulled a little bit by the background. There we go. Perfect. Just kind of put that in there. Grab this orange, a little bit of white. I'm going to make the beak this cadmium orange so it kind of like comes out more from the background. I'll use this color for his legs too, even though I actually don't think peacocks have this kind of like orange, yellow chicken legs. They also probably don't have a beak like this, but for our purposes right now, it's good. Kind of reads like gold or something. Perfect. Nice. It's kind of dope, actually. And I've been feeling the glow and colors kind of making like lighting effects recently, so I could come back up and shade this blue, but like I said, I don't want to get too stuck on the first thing, so I'm going to keep it moving. And then an eye. I feel like I should get an eye, and then we're going to move on. But he should be standing on a ball, so if anyone has a suggestion for like a ball-shaped item or something. And I'm going to go with the lion eye. Perfect. Perfect. And then we will just shade it up a little bit down here. I can't resist. I can't resist. Just putting in a little bit, but I don't like how that came out, so I'm just going to come back. Just get it. I want it to look effortless. That's really what you're going for. You don't want it to look like you put too much effort into shading it. Maybe I shouldn't have done that, but it's okay. Okay, what's the next thing? I'm actually going to dry this up because maybe it'll be like light coming up from the bottom. Yeah, we can work with that for now. We'll come back and fix his belly up. All right, cool. Let's see. Other stuff. I'm scrolling up a little bit. I second Peacock. Perfect, because we did it. How about a ship like the Mayflower or anything related to discovery and starting a new life in the wilderness? Yo, actually, yeah, we are going to do a ship, and that would be kind of dope because I can make the ship like on top of the Peacock. Like the ship is like sitting on the Peacock. That's definitely what we're going to do. Damn, I covered a lot of the palette already, but it's okay. Ship color. Let's go. I'm kind of torn if I want like a dead brown or like a really alive brown. Burnt umber is kind of like the dead brown. This is like a bar of like dark chocolate. Burnt sienna is kind of like really warm and alive. It's a little bit more of a risk to go with the burnt sienna. So let's do it. Let's go with the risky one. All right, and then I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. So if I miss your suggestion, you can just tell me again. Ship is obviously like one of the dopest symbols. I mean, come on. Who isn't down with that? And we'll just throw in kind of like a quick ship over here. I'm just going to actually grab the burnt sienna and see how loose I can get with it. And then if I need to make like some lines in there, I'll probably go with the burnt umber. But for now, you'll see what I mean with how like warm this color is. And I'm going to make it this kind of ship where it has... You can hear my dog barking. I think my wife's making like pie or something, so the dog got excited. Okay. Nice. Perfect. And I really want to get that color fade. So I want it to be totally dark over here, like you can see. And then I'm just going to kind of lighten it up. Boom. Perfect. And see how light I can get it. Because when you get the color coming through, oh, so good. Nice. That's something I've been pushing more in my painting. Not painting. I mean, it is. I think of it as painting, but when I do art in Photoshop, you can call it cope, that I call it painting, whatever. But I've been trying to push the lighting and stuff, and I've been like painting in these glows. Like on the book cover I made, I got this candle, and I made these red light like reflecting on all this stuff around it. And it looks so good. I honestly couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, I really stepped it up. Okay. Maybe we'll do something like that as we're working. Oh, that's perfect, the fade. We'll come back in and put some lines in as we're going, but... Okay. This is the ASMR, someone's in the kitchen making pie or something, and the dog is not pleased by the sound of the grinder. I don't know if you guys can hear the grinder. I've been really bonding with my dog so hard recently. I've been training her to like not bark at stuff. It's been really tight. I've been really enjoying like the mystical and like philosophical implications of like bonding with an animal consciousness. It's been really, really dope. Okay, we'll talk about that more later. So I'm going to go with this kind of simple sail setup situation. I can't tell if I should make the sails in brown too. I kind of feel like I should. I could make them in another color though. Let's do it in another color. I'm going to go with raw sienna. So actually you'll be able to see here. I've talked about it a lot, but there's the raw sienna, burnt sienna. So the burnt sienna is red, the raw sienna. I should make like a prize, like if someone could tell me. It's yellow. But I'll throw this down in here. Let's kind of throw in these sails. Perfect. I was thinking about that Greek story. You guys know this story where when the captain had them land somewhere, they like burned all their ships. I think the women burned the ships actually, but there's a really famous painting of it. I know the painting, not the story, where they landed somewhere and then all the ships are burning because they wanted them to like really feel like they were committing to like staying there. I don't think they had to burn the ships when they got to the New World, but it's kind of a funny comparison. Okay. I'm going to shade these in a little bit and then we'll just keep it moving. Maybe we'll go back a little bit. Yeah, perfect. Nice. Wish it was a little more opaque. Nice. I'm not getting that. I'm really just not getting that super light yellow that I want. I want it to be like crazy light. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Kind of pick it up here too. This is one of the first Thanksgivings that I'm away from home actually, which will be kind of interesting. We'll talk about that more later. Okay, cool. It's good enough for right now. We'll come back in and put some stripes on here, but I don't want to do it while it's still wet. So we'll come back. We're kind of leaving everything like, 60% in focus, and then we'll tighten it all up together. Okay, going through the suggestions. Someone said, I guess I accidentally scrolled back up. Peacock and turkey. Peacock represents, oh, the chat moved. Okay, I'm going to have to stay near the bottom. You can just resuggest stuff if I missed it. Okay, if we eventually paint pilgrim stuff, have an Indian somewhere too. Balanced time of peace. Also reminds me of Saint Tammany. Saint Tammany. The patron saint of America. Is that the first like Native American saint or something? It's pretty cool actually. Yeah, so Native American stuff, that would be tight. Maybe like a feather or something. Maybe a person if we get a person in. Sometimes that changes the vibe. Let's see. White Peacock. Sparrowhawk Village is a weird esoteric community near me that kept peacocks as some kind of holy animal. The Reverend denies it now. Oh, that's really funny, actually. Could we throw up a big eye behind them? Yeah, maybe. It would be kind of tight, actually. We can get kind of like two eyes over here and start to work in like kind of a face situation. Let's just do it. This is the pulling the trigger episode, so let's just do it. I'm just going to grab a blue. It's one thing I can kind of never get out of my art. It's like the eyes and like the human face and stuff. I guess that kind of makes sense. It's like one of the most basic. I think because your mind is so trained to like push to recognize human faces and everything, that's kind of why I like to like use that element of it. Like even if you just put these two shapes here, your mind will start to like read in like, oh, is it a face or like what? So I'm going to take that suggestion and I'm just going to throw down these two eyes. It's kind of a good setup because we could just kind of forget about them and then they'll be hovering there, or we can come back. I just want to make sure the pupil circles are good. Or we could come back and, get some hair in. It could be like a woman's face, like if we get something up here and then the hair with like two ears or something, that would actually be pretty hot. But let's see. Let's see how it goes. Ball-shaped item, pomegranate. Yeah, it's pretty dope actually. And the chat continues. The fruit has some symbolism in Greek mythology, right? Yeah, pomegranate is one of the dopest ones. Okay, I'm going to take pomegranate. Let's do it. And I actually have a very pomegranate-y color that we never use. I don't know if we've even used this on the show ever. So alizarin crimson is like a very standard painting color. Pretty much any palette, if you're on classical oil painting, or even now, you're going to get alizarin crimson in there. This is like our cool red, in case you're keeping score. We have a lot of like warm reds and stuff, but this would be the cool red. Actually, we really have one. It's cadmium red and then cadmium scarlet. But I'll use this, and in terms of the pigment, it's nice for this painting that we have going on right now because... Oh, so many little bits of paint. Because it's really transparent. So I'm going to see if I can get the same kind of fade. It also kind of goes with the color scheme we have so far. And yeah, I saw people talking about it in the chat, but pomegranate's one of those symbols that carries over from pagan times into Christianity. I actually have a shirt. It's really old, actually, with a pomegranate on it and a church underneath because I read that the pomegranate represents the church because all the seeds come together to form this one fruit. Like all the people come together to form this one... Sorry, all the seeds come together to form the fruit the way all the people come together to form this one like body of believers, which I thought was pretty dope. I want to see if I can get the same kind of fade going on. Perfect. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to get all the pigment off the brush and just come back in with the straight water. But the red pigment might be too strong. I might have to use like a paper towel or something. We'll see. I probably will have to do that. Boom. Yeah, that looks good. Cool color scheme so far. I'm going to come back in and just dry it up a little bit. Maybe too much. Maybe too much. That looks pretty good. A little pink. It's hard to make the light reds not bleed into like pink territory, but you know, we do what we can. All right, let's roll with that too for now. We're just trugging along full speed. This is dope. Okay, keep it going, keep it going. How about a Masonic tiled floor, but it's been smashed and broken. Light coming through the cracks. Interesting. Interesting. A Masonic tiled floor. I'm feeling the tiled floor. I feel like the tiled floor is kind of a dope thing to drop in because, you know, obviously a huge part of my vibe is like American Christianity, but like what that means and all its like weirder elements. And I feel like there's kind of this double-edged sword that really never gets talked about with like American Christian stuff, where like some of the founders were like Freemasons, obviously, and like involved in like all this really weird, crazy stuff. It's very like anti-theological. So it's kind of interesting. Kind of has a little tension there. So yeah, let's do it. And that'll let us get some black in. Cracked and light shining through it. I think that what we'll do... I don't know. We could have like plants growing through it or something, and that could be really dope. I'm just going to paint it... Let's see. You know what I'll do? I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to paint it in like this. It'll be perfect for the bottom here too. Because also the Masonic tile floor, it's good because it's like, it could be a Masony tile floor, or it could just be like a chessboard or something, which has connotations of like spiritual warfare and stuff like that. So it's kind of a good one. And also like people moving around the world, pilgrims coming here, kind of has a connotation of like a game, the ordered situation of life. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint in this kind of like broken board. I don't want to cut it right there though. Okay, I'm planning out how it's going to fit and everything, because I'm going to come back in. And if it doesn't fit perfectly, I can just kind of blur it out a little bit and like cop out, so it's not really a big deal. But we'll make this kind of checkered-y floor. Perfect. And we'll kind of have this chunk over here. Right here. Perfect. Kind of coming off. Perfect. George Washington, his dad was like a priest though, right? I actually don't have that like fully researched to like talk about, but his dad was like an Anglican priest, I'm pretty sure. The Anglicans, right? No, I'm just kidding. They're cool. But I'm pretty sure his dad was like an Anglican priest. I kind of made this square too big. It's okay, that doesn't matter. And we'll kind of just have it like broken up, like it's kind of like come off or something like that. He seems like a cool guy. I think that his involvement in Freemasons was like purely social, but that could also be cope from me as an American. And we'll have like a few tiles like over here coming off over this way. Perfect. I do like the symbolism of the chessboard and stuff a lot because it implies like the ordered rules to life and like participating in that like framework. This is good enough. Okay. I'm going to come in and shade in some of these tiles. When I'm shading in stuff like this, I have to decide if I want the darkest tiles in the back fading up or the darkest tiles in the front fading back. Technically, with like perspective and color, the way it works, the closer ones should be darker, receding into lighter, but with the way the picture works, if it's the black and white up against each other right here, that's going to be the highest area of contrast, and it's going to draw your eye there, so I actually don't want that. So I'm going to make the tiles in the back darker, because I want your eyes to be drawn up towards the center of the page. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to shade these in. Shade this one in too, except I'm going to come off over here and start to pick up the pigments so they start getting a little bit lighter. It's a little bit of an extreme jump there, but it's fine. Cool. But yeah, like Ben Franklin going to like those Hellfire clubs and stuff like that. It's kind of weird. America does have like literally like Masonic origins, but obviously I'm still down. I guess you could say I avoid trying to square that circle, to be completely honest with you. I'm loyal to the people, not the founders. Alright, here we go. I'll come down over here. Perfect. This kind of opens up a whole other little realm of symbolism, because we could get like even like chess pieces and stuff like that in. I'm letting you guys direct. So I'm going to look up again in a second and take another suggestion. So it's kind of dope, actually. It's kind of dope. We'll see what we want to do with that. If we want to push like the broken-y aspect of it, I could put in like a plant like growing up or something, or we could put like light coming out of the cracks or something. But for now, that's kind of cool. Let's leave it like that for now. Okay. I'm just going to look up and start taking random stuff from the chat, which is, I guess is the whole kind of point of it. As a Constitution appreciating American, I'm constantly coping away from the Freemasonry. Yeah, welcome to my life. Oh, the most recent one is interesting, actually. I wonder if there are any symbols that represent gratitude. Huh. You wonder if there's symbols that represent gratitude? Well, why don't we just break out the reverse symbol dictionary? Let's see, actually, if gratitude's in here. That's a really good suggestion. Let's see. Of course, I know how to spell gratitude, so I'm not looking in the wrong place. No, it's not here. Is there like a smarter word for gratitude? I feel like it should be here, right? But it's not. Thankfulness? That's not going to be in here. It's not like proper enough. What's like the art history term for thankfulness? Like appreciation? There has to be some like intelligent word that we're not thinking of. Here's TH. Thankfulness is not going to be in here. That's not like art history enough. Thaddeus, Thalia, Thanatos. No. They don't come up with a good suggestion? No. Well, we'll see if we can figure that one out. Maybe that'll be the underlying theme for the episode. There's definitely something in here that means thankfulness, but I don't know. Let's see if we can crack that nut later. Okay, we need another suggestion then. But maybe I know a symbol that represents thankfulness. Thankfulness, appreciation. I feel like my mind is too blocked by like Thanksgiving. I'm sure there are like, there's probably some like allegorical. What we would really be thinking of is like, there's definitely some allegory for something like thankfulness. You know, you see those like, if you go to like an art museum, you see those like sculptures where it's like a beautiful woman and she has like cherubs around her, but she's holding, you know, a few items and you're like, oh, that's charity, or oh, that's virtue, or oh, that's like civic duty. There's definitely one that represents like thankfulness or like appreciation. I don't know what it would be. So maybe we can come up with it later. Anyway, though, someone suggested cornucopia before. I'm kind of tempted by that. It's going to lock us into like Thanksgiving mode. But I guess it's not really my job to curate. I guess I'm just taking suggestions, honestly. Should we do cornucopia? I think we should. Let's do it. I'm going to do it. A bow and arrow is a thankfulness symbol in China. It's pretty dope, actually. I'm going to go with cornucopia. And it's going to lock us into Thanksgiving mode. Normally I curate a little bit, but this time I'm not. I'm just going to take suggestions right off the bat. Let's see. But do I want to get all the stuff in there, like all the fruits and everything? Maybe a basket. Maybe I'll. Oh, that's perfect. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change the cornucopia suggestion to a basket because then it'll visually match the boat up there. That's exactly what we're going to do. It's a really good idea. Cornucopia is basically a basket. Was there a rule it has to be like a horn-shaped basket? I don't think so. Perfect. I have seen like some Greek sculptures and stuff like that where they do have cornucopias. So the cornucopia isn't just like a Thanksgiving thing to me personally. If anyone pushes for it, we can put in the horn-shaped basket. Okay. So I'm going to come in here and I want the visual parallel from the ship to the basket down here. It's funny, it kind of reminds me of Moses being in the basket and then that being related to the ark. Like he's in his own little ship and that ship happens to be a basket. It's kind of cool actually. We're going to make a little basket down here. Perfect. Perfect. Oh yeah, we definitely got the visual parallel. And then I'll come in, what I'll do to cement this visual parallel, so like when you're painting, obviously, sometimes you have things like that rhyme with each other. It's kind of like the verbal, so the visual version of like a verbal rhyme. What I'll do is I'll come in and put these like planks in, just like lines, and then I'll put notched lines on the basket. You know, a basket has like those lines on it. So that's what we'll do. And maybe I'll put fruit in it. I'll kind of leave it up in the air. If no one suggests anything, I'll put fruit in it, but I'm just going to kind of leave it up in the air like that. I kind of like how we're like pushing along and how this is coming together. We could get another brown item here. That would be kind of dope. And then we have like the trifecta. And then we gotta start thinking about how it's going to become like organized, but we're not quite at that point yet. Awesome Ninja 57 said, I Googled symbols of thankfulness and gratitude and got images of prayer hands together. That's interesting, actually. That's interesting. Prayer hands. That's kind of dope. I'm thinking about the prayer hands because we got the eyes, and I was really feeling what I said before, where like if we get something up here, and if we get the lines coming down, then this could be like a woman's face, and we could tuck it behind. It doesn't have to be a woman, but pictures of women are nicer than pictures of men. That's just how it is. You could kind of tuck the lines back over here for her face, and her face could be like mostly behind here. And then if we didn't have this floor here, we could put the praying hands here, but we already put this in. Praying hands. I'm going to table that one. So what do we have tabled right now? We have feather and praying hands tabled. That's kind of interesting. Would a couple of rabbits work on the opposite side of the cornucopia? Yeah, let's do it. And that'll let me use the brown. It's a perfect suggestion. Rabbits have kind of like an early American feel. If we want to get really early American, we could put in like a beaver or something, but it doesn't really reek of like deep symbolism. And how do we want to arrange the rabbits? Let's do it this way. We'll have one kind of down on the ground. I'm just going to throw in these kind of rabbity ears because we want the same fade. So what I'm thinking is I want to give myself enough room to get that fade in. Honestly, I'm not worried about the shape of the rabbit at all. I've mentioned this before on the show, but if you just make it a lump with the ears, it reads as a rabbit. You really don't have to worry about the shape of it at all. And then maybe I'll make the other one a little darker or a little lighter. I can't tell. We'll have the fade come up from the back with a little tail in there. Perfect. 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 I love the imagery and symbol of a rabbit. I used to use it all the time in my art. So good. Because its defining features are its ears. And then its ears also represent perfectly. Its ears perfectly embody what it represents in the tapestry of animals, because its defense is, its only method of defense and survival is its own vigilance and alertness. It lives via those giant ears. That's the only way it can kind of get through life on Earth, is that it has these giant ears. It's kind of cool in a way. It's pretty cool, actually. I kind of took away too much paint, but I used to go to this museum a lot, and they had this Japanese samurai helmet. That looks good, actually, the texture there. This Japanese samurai helmet, and there's this period in Japanese history the helmet making style is called Kawari Kabuto, where they put weird stuff on their helmets. And this one guy had giant rabbit ears on his helmet. And I just thought it was kind of cool. It's like he's saying, like, yeah, like I'm vigilant. I'm like alert. You know, you probably can't even catch me. But at the same time, he's a samurai. So it's kind of paradoxical, but it's kind of what I thought was cool about it. Okay, cool. And I'm going to have to tuck this ear back behind. Perfect. It's a really cool period of art to look into, by the way. It's called Kawari Kabuto, in case you want to look into it. Come down here. Boom. Yeah, this is good. In a way, I feel like in a way, rabbits kind of fit the Thanksgiving theme, right? Like, we had to come here to this, like, new world and, like, be fruitful and multiply and stuff. Kind of feels fitting. Maybe it's a stretch, but it feels fitting. Perfect. I'm going to try and get the same fade in there. Beaver is a big Canada symbol. Those guys show up everywhere. Nice. Yeah, actually in Europe, that's part of why they first came here. They like hunted their beavers to death. I think beavers are totally extinct in Europe now. They went like freaking nuts. And like literally killed all their beavers, I think. It sounds like I'm making this up, but I think that's actually true. Man, look at just the color. The way you get the color to like release its nature when you get it coming around like that. Love painting. So good. Okay. Okay, we're in a good spot right now. Let's see. We're going to start. Okay, so we've been trucking along, just putting things down naturally as it's happened. But we're going to start to kind of think about how we want to organize this into something cohesive. So that can mean a few things. I feel like it's going to be kind of like shapes interacting and then maybe opening up into like vistas and scenes and windows and stuff. But I don't know. It's kind of more up to you guys than me, but let's see. Is there anything else I want to take really quick from the chat? Looks like Tetris. What's the elevator pitch on Anglicanism? It's big here in Canada, but it's a big gap in my knowledge. It's a really good question. Maybe we'll talk about it a little bit. I have my own kind of take on it, I guess you could say. Before I do that, though, I kind of just want to get to like a logical pausing point. Looks trippy in a good way. It's a shame that the dodo has extinction stuff attached to it. Yeah, it's true. Okay, I'm going to make a call on the organization right now. I'm going to make a few calls right now. Let you guys have the reins so far, but now I'm going to take the reins just a tiny bit. Although if you keep putting in suggestions, I will see them in a second. I'm not going to like, you know, go away from the chat for like an hour or something. But what I'm thinking right now is that we should do what I said. I'm going to throw like a sun up here. I'm just going to make that executive decision. No one said the sun, but I'm making the call. I'm going to throw like a sun up here. Compass or nautical star shape work to create the outline of the woman's face. A compass. A compass is tight. Honestly, a compass is really tight, but what I'm worried about is that it wouldn't fit right here. It wouldn't. Oh, man, maybe it would, though. Maybe it would. Let's do it. Let's do it. I need a different color. A compass. Okay, I got it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get it to be like kind of a light gray up here, and we'll see if we can work a compass in. I'm actually just going to, on the fly, try and mix a little gray by grabbing. So what I'm doing right now, you can see, right? Yeah, it's kind of blown out over here with the light. My bad. I'll figure it out eventually. You know, it's not perfect yet. But what I'm doing is I'm taking the blue and then I'm mixing it with orange. Blue and orange are opposite on the color wheel. The orange is I'm grabbing the red and yellow. So I'm mixing those together, and I'm going to see if by doing that I can get a gray. We've talked about this before on the show, but in case you haven't seen or haven't been here or whatever, if you mix colors that are opposite on the color wheel, they cancel each other out. So purple and yellow, if you mix purple and yellow and then add white, you'll basically have gray. Same deal with green and red. Same deal with lots of other colors. So you can't see. I'm going to turn it a little bit just so you can see. Okay, so you can kind of see. I don't want all the paints to like go flying or whatever, but you'll see in a second when I put it over here. I'm going to grab a little blue. I just want it to be a little bit more blue. Perfect. So you can see the gray that we got from mixing those colors. Wow, it's a great gray. And when you do this, you get a gray that's more like lively. Like if I just mix black and white, that gray is kind of like dead. But here what you have actually is like the pigments are like, you know, it sounds kind of like voodoo-y or whatever, but the pigments are like pushing against each other and mixing and active. It's like this active mixture of color instead of just the black and the white being like dead together. Anyway. So let's throw this compass down up here, and I'm taking kind of a risk by doing this because a compass is a very like visually dense item. So what I kind of have to do, what I'm thinking is I have to basically just strip it to the most basic symbolic elements in that someone would look up here and be like, oh, it's a compass. I don't really know even if I can do that honestly, but I'm going to try. So I'm just going to fill in this gray border. What I'm thinking will get it is the needle. I'm reaching deep into my mind right now, and I feel like when you look at a compass needle, it's that red and black needle, right? That's like how it is in there. I'm like 99% sure of that, so we're just going to go for it. And also, I have to just tone this up a little bit, not too much, but it can't just be the pure white. We got the light, kind of a little bit too much. There we go, perfect. So I'm going to throw down this gray. It can't be too much, but I just want it to seem like a kind of steel background. That's perfect. Got it a little too dark, but it's okay. I'll pick it up with the paper towel in a second. And then when that dries, I'm going to put in that compass needle, and hopefully that will make it read as a compass. And if it doesn't, I will just make that a moon. And no one will ever know except you guys that that's how it all went down. Dang, I lightened it too much. Just darken it a little bit more. Okay. Got a little bit of texture in there. It's fine, though. And what I'm going to do while we're waiting, let's see, did we get more suggestions? No, we didn't. Oh, someone said, what kind of paint is it? Oh, nice, and Peter answered, nice. That's why he's got the wrench in the chat. Yeah, when I first learned you can give out wrenches, I gave a bunch of people that I recognized wrenches. So, anyway, yeah, it's gouache paint. So it lets me get opaque and watercolor style. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do right now, we will talk about Anglicanism in a second. That was a good prompt. But I'm going to make a little bit of an executive decision right here. And what I'm going to do is, the reason I put this item up here is I'm going to do something, I do this a lot in my pictures. I'm going to just kind of come down with the hair and make this like a female face. I would make it a guy's face, but honestly, no one likes looking at pictures of guys. Sorry, I'm a guy. No one likes it. Who wants to look at a picture of me? Nobody. Okay, so I'm going to come down here. And the reason I'm doing this is because this will open up our options for what we're doing with the picture. My hand's hovering, so I'm going to try and just make this. Cool. Definitely good enough. I got the hover hand. Touching a woman, I got the hover hand. It's kind of force a joke there, I guess. So the reason I'm doing this will give us a lot of options for what we want to do with the space. Because naturally, when I'm taking suggestions from you guys, the tendency is not because of you, just because of the nature of it. Can I put my hand here? Yeah, I can. A little bit. Is for it to just be like a bunch of random things all together, like on a white background, but we don't really want that. We want it to be like a picture, right? So it means we have to lay down a little bit of structure to like contain the symbols and stuff like that. So that's what I'm doing right now. And the reason I'm using this face is that it's just enough that it'll give us something to kind of like bounce off of, I guess you could say, as we're like moving forward. And I'm going to come down, I'm going to tuck her face right behind here. Perfect. That's cool. And same deal. Tuck her face right behind here. Perfect. And then I want to do something down here. I want to make kind of like an equally bold call. Because now you can see, now we can do like anything. Like I could put down a horizon up here, and then it could cut into this line of her hair, and there could be like a sky, or we could put, we could do anything now. I just wanted to like break up the space a little bit. And I'm going to do the same thing down here. Honestly, I kind of want to just put like a hill shape, but I'm worried it'll look like her shoulders, but maybe I could just roll with that. I could put in like a square. I could play off of this perspective that we have going on and kind of just put in, that would be kind of cool actually. Maybe I'll do that. That's what I'm going to do. So we have this kind of perspective set up where these lines are like coming out. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to sketch it in actually. Ooh, I still have blue on my brush. All right, well, that's what we're doing then. And I'm just going to come in here. And I'm going to come in over here. Maybe we'll end up using this, maybe we won't. We can see how it goes. And I'm going to come in this way. Perfect. Perfect. And come in over here this way too. And I know this lines didn't line up. I just didn't want it to perfectly match up with the top of the basket. Okay. And now you can see, I know I'm kind of like explaining the same thing over and over, but now you can see now we kind of got a little bit of like, it's like scaffolding. That's really what it's like. We got a little scaffolding to like build off of and like jump off of now a little bit. Awesome Ninja 57 said, give her earrings. Yo, yeah, exactly, dude. That's why you probably saw I like waited there and then I was like, all right, yeah, let's do it. What color though? Let's start pushing the colors a little bit. I'm gonna bridge the browns and the other colors we have going on. I'm gonna start to push up on the browns with this orange. You can see actually, you know, we typically like when people start painting or like even, you know, if you haven't painted for a while or, you know, whatever, we have these kind of like rigid confines of like, oh, it's red, it's blue, because you're used to like, you know, a box of like Crayola crayons or something like that. But you can see if you like cut parts of this, you know, this is brown, right? But it's kind of getting into orange. I could cut this and make it like a pumpkin color on like another painting. So the boundaries between the colors actually aren't rigid. Okay. So I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to go for the tiny... Oh, they're still blue. It's okay. Actually, it's kind of cool. It looks kind of like silvery. I was worried the orange would be too loud anyway, so it's perfect. I'm just going to come in over here. Perfect. Kind of like piratey earrings, but maybe it fits the theme. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to start... So something else I've been kind of pushing in my images is things like visually kind of like bouncing off of each other, I guess you could say. So I'm going to take this dark red kind of pomegranate-y shape here, and I'm going to drop it on the bottom of her earrings also. I might even make them little pomegranates. I should wait till it's dry, but I really don't want to, honestly. I kind of want to just keep the energy moving. So I'm just going to dab up the bottom a little bit. I'm just going to dab up the bottom a little bit here. That'll make it dry enough. And then I'm going to come in, and let's just drop these in. Perfect. So I'm going to paint in the circle, and then maybe we'll put the little flourish on it. Maybe we won't. It's a little too dark to register the visual kinship between these two, right? You can almost feel it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick it up. Boom. Perfect. There we go. Now we got it. That's exactly what I wanted. Perfect. So now you can see it'll kind of make a little bit of a red parallel. And then what we can do is if we get something else out here that's red, it'll kind of just like, you know, the colors, sometimes if you're doing a painting, you can like isolate the colors and see how they're like functioning with each other. Anyway, it's a little too much heady situationing. Let's go back and I'll paint up the needle of this compass. Someone asked me about Anglicanism. I did look into Anglicanism quite a bit. Not like, is it right for me, but just sort of like historically. And I guess I actually did kind of look into it, like if I was going to get into it, just, you know, when I didn't know anything about any churches or anything like that. Because my wife is kind of like a, what's a weeb? What's a weeb for like English stuff? That's like what my wife is. So she would have been down if I was like, all right, we're being Anglican. She probably would have been down. I feel like on a compass, I could have looked it up, but I want to keep the energy moving. I feel like it's one arrow is black and the other arrow is red, right? But for me, you know, I read this book one time, and or I read part of a book. I didn't read the whole book, honestly. And the guy writing the book, basically, it's funny because I kind of like look for the subtext of like what scholars are getting at, and they always have to kind of like pad what they're saying a lot, you know? And this guy spent almost like a whole chapter being like, look, you're going to hear a lot of people say that Anglicanism is Catholicism without the Pope. And that's a gross oversimplification. It's really not what it is. It's really not Catholicism without the Pope, all right? You know. And this whole and the next chapter was like, all right, with that being said, Anglicanism is basically like Catholicism without the Pope. And that's kind of where it sits like theologically in my mind. like I said, I'm not like an expert on anything, but in my mind personally, that's kind of like how I map it out. This other guy, I was listening to a podcast about the Reformation, and they said that, was it a podcast? I don't remember where I get a lot of my information, honestly. That King Henry VIII was in the odd situation of throwing the Pope out a window and then hoping he only stopped halfway down. It was kind of like he wanted to get rid of like the papal authority, but then he was hoping that all this other stuff would kind of like stay in place anyway. I mean, I don't think people realize, but like, I'm going off the cuff here, so if I say anything incorrect, like, sorry, I'm not like a scholar of like every single Protestant denomination. But like King Henry VIII like hated Martin Luther, right? He even wrote a book about like how wrong Luther was and got like an award from the Pope and got like a special title. I think it's called Defender of the Faith. So Anglicanism is pretty interesting because this guy, King Henry VIII, he didn't like Luther and he wasn't really about the Reformation. And then you have this like confluence of like socio-historical forces that, I mean, England, some people say that England was like a very unlikely place to have a Reformation at all, because you had the king who was like, titled Defender of the Faith from the Pope, and then you had all this educated class, and you're separated from continental Europe. But then, boom, they had a Reformation, and they became Anglican. Anyway, though, could go into that a little bit more, but that's basically my kind of 2 seconds on it. Anything we do for the eye color? Green eyes, 2 different eye colors. 2 different eye colors is kind of cool. Yeah, right now we have the green floating in the Peacock, so let's kind of pull that green out a little bit. I don't want it to be too loud. I could use the straight sap green. That's like the green right out of the tube. But I'm gonna take the sap green that we cooled off with the white over here. And yeah, let's make it 2 different eye colors. For some reason, I really feel like I should put the green over here. Not for any concrete reason. Boom. And let's see. It's a little wet. It's a little shiny. Just want it to be like a little less shiny. I feel like I could have darkened it up a little bit. Maybe I'll have to come back and darken it up. Maybe I can just darken up the pupil. Yeah, the color is like a weird value, honestly. Let's see. I'm going to come in and darken that up a little bit. But there's also, I learned about something cool recently that really tickled my like theological, obsessive, minutia, people in power and documents bone, which is the ordinariate. You guys know about the ordinariate? There's like this... technically it's technically like a diocese, but it's not really a diocese. It's like a organization like within Catholicism that is, I think it was started by Pope Benedict, that's designed to like bring in Anglicans into the church, into the Catholic Church, obviously. And someone told me it was kind of like traditional Latin Mass, but in English, and it's like its own order, I guess you could say, and it's in English, but it's like trad. This is like not the official pitch. I just thought it was interesting. And yeah, and I looked into it, and technically it's a diocese. Kind of messed up the eye here, but it actually looks kind of cool. Perfect. I'm going to come up and I'm going to actually outline this with the dark blue. I really should wait until this dries, but I don't want to. And yeah, technically it's like its own diocese, but it's not a diocese that's like confined by location. It's a diocese that like permeates other dioceses. It's almost like a meta diocese. And I was up in bed, like I was up in bed at like midnight, like reading about all this, and my wife was like, "Is what you're doing important? Like, can we come to bed?" And I'm like, "It's a meta diocese. It's a diocese not confined to one location." Like, yeah, we can go to bed. All right, give her earrings. It's a little far back. Big earrings. Anything we do for the eye color? Okay, cutting the head. Anglicanism is weird because it ranges from Anglo-Catholics to Anglo-Evangelicals. Yeah, and then in America you get the Episcopalians, right? I'm pretty sure Episcopalian is like derivative of Anglican, but now I'm outside of my depth. I'm gonna make this other eye orange. I really just feel like that's kind of the move. And if it messes up the blue that we have going on here, I'll come back and tighten it up with the blue. But for now, I just really felt like that was the move. More people make suggestions. Otherwise, I'm just gonna go off the rails and just who knows what I'm gonna start doing. All right, I'm gonna pick up this pupil color here. I kind of like that the eyes are not so clear, honestly, because typically they would be such a hardcore area of focus. I kind of like that they're like sinking into the background. But let's see. I just want to pick up this blue and like pull it out a little bit, but it's not doing what I want it to. So I got to come over here and let's see if I can just Perfect. Yeah, that looks sick. Nice. And we'll get the darker over here on the bottom. So we'll have the darker on the top, darker on the bottom. Word up. Yeah, that looks dope, actually. It's kind of like she's looking in two different directions, but the more I look at it, the more I actually like it. I'm going to leave it for a minute and see if we want to come back and change it. We could change it. If anyone pushes for it, we could change it, but I kind of like it. And I'm just going to darken. Yeah, I just want to clear it up a little bit. That really did it. Perfect. Cool. It's kind of like she's looking in two different directions, but I actually like it in a way. I think if we play up that difference, it'll really work to our advantage because there's no rules for what we do with this space that is like her face. You know, I could put like a horizon line in here and put like an island back here. I could put like a teardrop or something underneath it. I actually like that. Let's just leave that for right now and see how we want to play it. Okay. Can we do 2 seasons for the background, fall and winter? Yeah. That's what I'm talking about right now. Yeah. Okay, that's dope. Yeah, let's get the fall and winter thing going. That's perfect, actually. So what we're going to do, we have this kind of like floor over here, but I'm actually just going to grab the brown, which has ended up being the kind of color of the show, and I'm going to just put in this kind of hill over here. Boom. Oh, it's perfect. This will be the fall side with the brown. Let's come over here. Now we're cooking with fire. Now we got some fire going on. I'm trying to think of everything else interesting to say about Anglicanism. I bought this book. So I read a bunch of these very short introduction books. You guys know about these books? They're like 120 pages. Some random scholar writes about like a topic they know about. And I read a few and they were pretty good. I mean, you know, they're not like, you're not going to learn everything, but like if you don't know anything about a topic, they're pretty good. I posted them online. And everyone was like, dude, those books are horrible. Like, don't ever read those. Like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, well, they're kind of cool. Like, what's the problem? And then I read a few that were really bad, so I was like, oh, that's probably why people didn't want me to read them. But some of them were good. And I read the one on Anglicanism, and it was like, oddly, like, you know, I get people have different like political views, but it was very like, oh, white men, like white males. And I was like, it's a book about Anglicanism. I was like, seriously? It's like, what am I reading right now? Anyway, so it's sort of a funny anecdote. Okay, so we got these 2 hills over here, and yeah, we're going to do fall on this side and winter on this side. Obviously, my inclination is to do a tree, and then with the fall leaves, it could be our last fall tree, and then like a dead tree over here for winter, but there's other stuff we could do. I'll leave it up in the air for a minute, but if no one suggests anything, that's what I'm going to do. Getting big Gaia Mother Earth vibes from the lady. Yeah, maybe a little bit. Suggestions, plow or some other harvest implement. Yeah. I'm worried I don't really know what a plow looks like. I could paint a plow. I've painted a few plows before. You know what I'm going to do though instead of a plow actually? I'm going to go with some kind of like garden-y, harvesty thing. we're going to take this gray over here. I'm going to throw some blue in it. I just want to like darken it up a little bit. Cool. Just a little bit more. Cool. And I'm going to do a shovel. Let's do a shovel over here. It's kind of like a harvesty thing for me. You can tell I grew up not on a farm. Farming, shovel, perfect. But yeah, about the Anglicanism thing, just because it relates to pilgrims and stuff like that, like I mentioned before at the start of the show, the most interesting thing for me is like when England, you know, is Catholic and then it's Protestant and you have everyone moving around. There's something so like fascinating about all that. I think it's because it's like it's almost like active theology. You know, like when you think of theology as like a discipline, I mean, of course it like affects people's lives, like duh, but it's kind of like confined to like, I don't want to say the upper classes, that's not what I mean, but it's kind of confined to like books or big or in all capital letters, or people's like theological lives. Like they go to church and then it affects their life there, obviously. But during some periods of history, it's kind of cool when it's like on the ground, like, you know, like is this, and like when Luther and Calvin and Zwingli and stuff are going around and it's like, oh, is this country going to become Lutheran? Is it going to become Calvinist? Like, oh man, like Zwingli's over here. Like, it's almost like a video game, like imagining them like going around Europe and like, you know, the Reformation's going on and stuff. It's kind of a cool period of history. Perfect. And you guys know about like Fox's Book of Martyrs and stuff that also comes down. That also comes down in that time period. That's really cool too. There's all these like Protestant martyrs that get killed under Mary and stuff, and they have these like really epic. I mean, frankly, whatever you think about their ideas, they have these really epic deaths. Honestly, unfortunately, they're really, really, really epic. Boom. Or at least that's what the books say. Okay, we got a shovel over here, and I kind of want to put like a scythe, like a sickle. I could put the sickle on the winter side because everything's like dead, but it's not very harvesty. I'm going to put it over here. Cool. I'm going to throw down the wooden part. There's one guy, I forget his name right now. There's one guy, oh man, what's his name? I knew it, and I was like, oh, I'm going to talk about this on the show tonight, but I forgot. There's one guy, I'm pretty sure it's under Mary. This is a very loose historical story because I didn't plan the details out telling you, but basically, it's in Fox's Book of Martyrs. He, some Protestant guy, and he like becomes Catholic because he has to under the like authority situation. He like renounces his Protestantism. But then he goes back to it. And, I mean, I'm going to butcher the story, but I'll get the important part right. So they're basically like, look, you can't be Protestant. Like, we're going to execute you if you don't, like, renounce it again. And he was like, you know, I'm not going to renounce it. Sorry. So they're going to burn him at the stake. So they go to burn him at the stake. And I guess before they burn people back then, you do some kind of, like, confession of what you did wrong, that why you're getting burned or whatever. And he's like, or maybe he was just doing it. So he's standing there and he's delivering all the reasons, all the things he did wrong. And then at the end, instead of saying that he, you know, wouldn't renounce his faith, he was like, the only wrong thing I did was renounce it the first time. And he was like, I'm not going to do it again. And he was like, when they burn me, the first thing that I'm going to burn is the hand that I signed that cursed like renunciation with. And then when they light the fire underneath him, he reaches down and puts his right hand like right in the fire and holds it up. And like the hand like melts off and everyone's watching it. And then they're all telling each other about it. It's pretty cool, honestly. It's pretty cool. Whatever you think about his ideas, it's pretty awesome. I mean, it's unfortunate he got burned at the stake, but that's pretty cool. And yeah, basically, there's all these like martyrs that become like propaganda in a neutral sense for their cause. It's pretty cool. Okay, 2 seasons. We did that already. Plow. It's kind of what I just did. Yeah, the Episcopal Church is the USA Church and the Anglican Communion, but there's also counting Anglicans who broke from the communion because of women priests. LGBT and abortion. That's interesting, actually. A ladder. Yeah, we can get a ladder in. That's pretty tight. It's pretty classic Owen painting situation. The color of those rabbits, basket, and ship are giving me fire vibes. Yeah, we could get like a cozy fire, and we could put a fire in on the winter side. That actually would be very appropriate. Let's do it. I'm going to take that as a suggestion. So just so you can get into my mind, painting-wise, I made these the same warm brown. I'm going to make it really dark. I don't want it to be light like this and start to pick it up. So I'm going to take this dark brown. I should have made it darker. I was just going to say that I'm going to use like a burnt umber so I don't get that same coloring over there, but I already did that. This is burnt sienna, not burnt umber. And let's throw down a little fire in the winter side. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw down some kind of like fat logs. Just going to throw down some fat logs. Perfect. Let's see, what other kind of cool pilgrimy stories do I know? That's the main one, honestly. I watched Charlie Brown Christmas with Charlie Brown Thanksgiving yesterday with my wife. And the whole time I was watching it, I was like, not that there's anything wrong with it, but I was like, it's so interesting that this became like the cultural touchstone. Like, how did this become like a cultural phenomenon? It's so interesting and strange. Okay. So I want these logs to be differentiated. Yeah, actually they're different enough. Perfect. I'm just going to make 2 of them there. And let's throw down this fire. Let's get it going. I'm going to work from the outside in with the fire so I can get the color fade in the way that I want. Actually, I'm not going to do that just because I want to start with the lightest color. If I start with the red, it'll be too difficult to get the yellow in the center without it being like polluted by the red. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go classic like fire painting style. I'm just going to throw down the yellow. I'm using the warm yellow, obviously this is cadmium yellow. I'm not too worried about the shape because I'm about to like blur it out. So even though I did get a nice fire shape, then I'm going to grab the orange. Perfect. Man, what's that guy's name that burnt his right hand? I'm so pissed I forgot. I knew it, and I was like, okay, it's going to be a great story, and I forgot the guy's name. All right, perfect. Cool. Yeah, I really do love the history of the Reformation, honestly. Even though I don't sympathize with all their ideas, obviously, but it's kind of interesting. I think part of why it's interesting is that it does trickle down so much into like American history, and I think that's kind of cool. Like most Americans don't know anything about like Calvin or whatever, but it's interesting that like it's like this history that's just behind like a very thin veil. You know, like my cousin, I guess I'm always worried about giving personal details, but this is very broad. Like my cousin and his family are Lutheran, right? I don't think any of them know anything about like Martin Luther's life or whatever. Not being like arrogant, but I just don't think they do. So it's just kind of interesting. I'm always like fascinated by like history that like is obscured by like a thin layer of, you know, dust or whatever, but is actually like imminent and like right there, you know? Like I know he like buys into it, you know, it's not like he's not into it. But he just happens to not be the kind of person that would like know a ton about Martin Luther yet at the same time, you know. Obviously he's Lutheran. It's interesting. Anyway, so we got this nice fire over here. Oh, I like how this fire looks. I'm tempted to kind of get like a glow around it, but I don't want it to draw too much attention. I'm tempted to just grab the yellow and like paint in a glow, but I don't want to draw too much attention. I guess I could take a little bit of the red. Let's see if this will work. I actually don't know if this will work or not. I'm just going to paint in some of the light from the fire, kind of like it's glowing off the snow or something around it. Maybe it's snow. Maybe it's not. We don't know. Perfect. Yeah, it's kind of cool, actually. It's kind of cool. And maybe we'll make it dark like it's winter or something. We'll figure that out. But for now, it's pretty good. Okay. Color of the Rabbits, Fire Vibes. Will you do a full-blown Christmas special in December? Yes, I will. Anglicanism is somewhat cool. I read that one already. Yeah, we'll go hard for Advent and stuff, obviously. Episcopalian Diocese of the Northeast dropped by 78%. Damn, in 10 years? That's insane, dude. Burning Hand Dude was Thomas Kramer. Thomas Kramer. Is that true, actually? Interesting. Okay, there's no more suggestions, so I'm going off the rails right now. Fall style. I know a tree would look dope. Should I? I think maybe I should. You know, I was going to say it's kind of like I always do trees and stuff, but like it's the end of the season. It might be the last fall tree we paint. So let's do it. So I'll throw it down quickly, and then we'll see if we want to make any other big calls. Where are we at on time? Oh, we're perfect. Nice. And then in the winter, I'll put like a pine tree. I never use that, actually. I picked up a Christmas tree recently. I'm going to use the burnt umber over here, but I don't want it to be so dark so it grabs too much attention. So I'm actually just going to lighten it up quite a bit. Come over here. Perfect. Maybe it might be too light. It's too light. A little too overzealous there. Okay, cool. Let's see, any other early American stuff? Not really, honestly, man. You know, I'm all about the vibe. I just find it such a powerful, I mean, it sounds stupid, but part of like American history, you know what I mean? Like, it really is kind of dope that those people set off across the ocean, you know, came all the way here, got set up and everything. It's pretty awesome. It's a pretty cool national origin story. At the same time, as like a traditional, I would never call myself like a traditionalist. I was going to say like a tradition-oriented person. There is like a paradox in the founding of America because obviously, oh, dude, the fade on this tree is tight. We had a revolution, right? Duh. So America kind of has this like paradox like stuck into it where we were founded via revolution, and as I've like gotten older, I kind of feel like that plants the seeds of like an inevitable another American revolution, because once you like throw off the authorities because you don't like them, it's kind of just inevitable that eventually you get in another situation, and you know, then it kind of becomes time to throw off that authority. It's actually kind of like what I just said before about, which is not my phraseology, it's not my idea, that I really wish I knew who I was quoting, but I don't remember. The King Henry VIII threw the Pope out the window and wanted him to stop halfway down. You know, once you kind of do away with that like authority, you could argue that it's kind of inevitable that other changes are eventually going to come in. You can't just like say, hey, it's okay for me to change the rules this one time, but you guys later can't change the rules. You know, of course, it's inevitably going to happen. I was going to beef this up, but I really like this fade I got on the tree, so I'm kind of just going to leave it, actually. I was going to make it a little darker, but it's actually kind of sophisticated. That's kind of, you know, most people probably know, but, you know, I'm sympathetic to different forms of Christianity, but I like to think I can see everyone's side, regardless of what my personal affiliations are, you know. That's part of, like, what drew me to studying religion in the first place, was, like, putting on the glasses of, like, one worldview and putting on the glasses of another worldview, and, like, you know, I can see where, like, some of the Protestant guys are coming from and stuff, but there's not really a but there, you know. ... I think part of the interesting paradox there is what I just described, where, like, once you start changing things around, it's kind of a dangerous game wherein all of a sudden, you know, are you building this house on, like, sand or something where, you know, it's okay for this guy to change the rules, but then later when this guy wants to change the rules, you can't do it? Don't know. Is that really an argument against it? I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I read part of this biography of Luther where the guy was saying that that's kind of what happened, like, near the end of Luther's life. I'm not saying that's true, but it's interesting. Where, like, all of a sudden other people are like, oh, let's do it this way, let's do it this way. And the way this person was painting the picture, I don't know if it's true or not. People lie about other people all the time. But the way this guy was painting the picture was like, yeah, so he kind of started this process that eventually he was like, whoa, wait, you can't do that, you know. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting. But again, that doesn't mean that, you know, is that an argument against the system? You could just as easily turn it around the other way and be like, oh, well, you know, that's not an argument for what, so America should have stayed part of Britain? Hell no, dude. That would suck. Not on my watch. So you're kind of stuck either way you go. Epic fallen world moment. Am I right? Epic fallen world moment. This tree looks good. I'm going to throw in some dark red at the bottom of this tree. It's kind of the paradox that I've been butting up against in terms of, like, you know, authority in general. It's like, on the one hand, you don't want to, like, turn your brain off and just, like, completely accept the authority. But on the other hand, you don't want to just be rolling with your, like, unchecked pride and, like, you know, the wicked aspects of yourself. So what do you do? I don't know. Okay. It's a nice little monologue weaving together a few different topics. Let's get back to this painting situation now. But really, though, that actually is kind of like one of the fundamental issues I've been wrestling with for, like, multiple months of my life every single day. Anyway, anyone suggest anything? Nearly bare fall tree. All the ones around me are leafless now, pretty much. Well, that would have been tight, but I kind of went hardcore because I thought this might be the last fall tree I painted. But yeah, I'll put some leaves on the ground, actually. Actually, I'm going to do that right now while I'm talking. Boom. Boom. Yeah, I mean, you know, isn't that kind of interesting, too, like what I just said? Like I can think through it and be like, yeah, well, of course, you know, like tradition and, you know, this king and we should just X, Y, and Z. But then I'm like, what, so the American Revolution shouldn't have happened? Definitely should have, dude. What, you think I'm going to try and still be part of Britain? No offense if anyone English is watching this, but, you know, I'm sure you wouldn't want your country to be part of another country. I definitely don't. So it's interesting. It's interesting. More and more, I kind of just, like, accept the paradoxes that are inevitable in being, like, a human in, like, this weird, like, terrestrial situation. You know, I kind of just accept them. I don't, like, butt my head up against them so much. I think about them and I try and resolve them, but at the end of the day, it's kind of just how it is, I guess. All right. Books. Yeah, books could be interesting. Maybe on either side. Oh, yeah. What did we table so far? Feather. Feather is dope. I'm definitely going to get a feather down here. I forgot what the other thing we tabled was, honestly. I totally forgot. Feather, books, maybe? Let's see. I was reading that because of the story of the founding of Rome, that the Romans were really weird and superstitious about brothers and familial feuds. Yeah, it's definitely true, dude. It's definitely true. The Etruscans also in Rome. This is a whole other thing that I'm into, but the Etruscans, those people in Rome, Tuscany, they're like hardcore. I mean, honestly, I think it's part of their like natural, I don't know what the PC way to say it is, like ethno tendency, their like blood nature. Honestly, it's kind of what it is. Very into like magic and rituals and things like that. I don't mean it in a bad way, actually. It's pretty cool, but you know, oracles. Oracles, oracular stuff is really the proper word that I'm looking for. They have that kind of like tendency naturally. If you go back into like old magical texts and old antiquity books and stuff like that, they're always doing like oracular. Oh, we found a head in this hill. We gotta like, you know, they go really hard on that. Okay. This is the beauty of Brexit. The other thing was a bow and arrow. Okay. Cool. So let's do it. Feather, bow and arrow, books. Oddly, I feel like that does kind of fit at the bottom. I might just like line those things up down here. And then we'll probably have to start making some powerful calls as we get into landing the plane mode. We are right on the edge. We're right on the edge, just so you know what I'm thinking right now. We're right on the edge of having it be like an integrated picture. It's almost like random things strewn about. Like they make sense symbolically, but I mean in terms of composition. So that's what I'm going to be thinking about once I put in some stuff here at the bottom. How we can kind of tie it all together. What would be kind of dope, I don't think we can do it. What would be kind of dope is if this was like a table, honestly. That would be sick. If this line and this was like a table down here. I'm kind of feeling like I should just go for that, honestly. And kind of make this like a table. And then there's this background. Because what I could do is I could put like a little wick right here. And then have there be like a candle on the table. We could put like a plate over here. That would be kind of tight. I mean, then I'm just totally like going off the rails. But maybe we should do that. I can't really tell. No, I'm going to stick to your guys' suggestions. I don't want to take the reign. Okay. So feather, bow and arrow, and books. Let's do it. I'm going to make the feather big right here, and then the book will be opposite it. So the feather, it's obviously going to be a red feather. I mean, come on, who are we kidding? I'm going to come in with this red. That is the beauty of Brexit. Also, oh yeah. America has basically a picture of what it would have looked like to not have had a revolution in Canada. Yeah, it's pretty interesting, actually. Honestly, as much as I, you know, part of my situation is just being honest, like what I know about and what I don't know about. I really don't know anything about how Canada got its independence, I guess you could say. The thing is that it kind of didn't, right? Like they still have the queen on their money. Like I know about how their modern situation is in terms of like, you know, it's obviously like an independent country, but X, Y, and Z, but I don't really know how that happened or like how it was like negotiated. Like what, did the queen like call up one day and be like, hey, so maybe you've seen the vibe is not really having colonies anymore, so we're kind of going to let you guys go. We're going to let you guys go. Kinda. Anyway, I don't know much about that. I actually should, but I honestly really don't. Okay. Same deal for Australia. I don't know how Australia ceased being a colony. I have no idea. I'm perfectly comfortable admitting that. I know about lots of things, but I don't know about that. Okay, I'll come in here. But yeah, that's true, actually. I guess if America didn't have a revolution, it would have just kind of ended up being like Canada. That's interesting. Cool. Come in with this feather over here. I struggle with this too. On the one hand, I worry that rejecting authority might be about excusing some behavior I have. On the other hand, authority is not infallible. Yeah, it's a balancing act. I mean, honestly, I don't think there's an answer. I really don't. I think that that's, like I said, part of just the condition of being human in like a fallen world, honestly, that we have to accept. And you kind of know, I think that, you know, I think more than anything else, you know, part of the reason, you know, I do think humans are like divinely calibrated, like in some way. I kind of have like a noose model where like humans have like a heart mind that's calibrated to divine stuff, but you can kind of like obscure it and have it be like messed up by doing bad things and stuff like that. But in general, I think we do have that calibration, and in general, deep down, I think you know, honestly, you know, you kind of know when you're like excusing bad behavior and stuff and when you're not, you know. Like when I was like, you know, what's a good example? Like when I was like smoking weed like literally 24/7, it's like deep down, like obviously I knew I shouldn't be doing that. And like, you know, it makes you reject like temporal authority because you're like, well, you don't know, you can't tell me what to do. Like I said, I think deep down, you know. So that's kind of a comical, like stupid example, but you can extrapolate that to like other things also. I think people generally know when they're in rebellion or not. Maybe they don't though. All right, I'm throwing on this book over here. I might paint like a little American flag in the book. It might be a good move. And I'm going to darken up the binding of the book with this brown over here. What do you think of the king of a nation residing over the church in his realm as opposed to the pope? What do I think about that? Well, it's kind of a tough one, man. I think, again, it's like kind of a case by... Well, I'm assuming you're asking me like from the Catholic like perspective, like if it was a Catholic country or something, obviously. Well, actually, interestingly, I was just poking into that whole world also. I had this kind of epiphany. I don't know if we talked about this on the show. I don't think we did, but I had this kind of epiphany because I've always been really interested in the Avignon papacy. In case people don't know, the Avignon papacy is this time period where the papacy got relocated to France, and it was kind of this whole... It's kind of a mess, honestly. I mean, that's just my opinion. But the papacy got relocated to France, which is like in and of itself a very interesting question because it immediately brings up these like very interesting theological issues of like, well, within Catholicism, where it's like, well, can the office of the papacy, can the office of being the pope actually be divorced from being the bishop of Rome? You know what I'm saying? Like within Catholicism, the pope is the bishop of Rome, right? And that happens to be, well, it doesn't happen to be. I'm sure it's hard to explain. It is the case that the pope is the bishop of Rome. So all of a sudden, you had the situation where the pope's not living in Rome. If he's not living in Rome, he can't be the bishop of Rome because that's called absenteeism. You're not allowed to do that. So it immediately brings up all these interesting questions of like, well, can the office of the papacy be divorced from the seat of being the Roman bishop, you know? And it brings up all these interesting questions. So I was kind of poking in there. It's kind of cool. Bring the light back over. And then the reason I'm mentioning that is because around that time, just before that happened, you get certain issues coming up where like the King of France was kind of saber rattling. I don't know if we talked about this last week. Sorry if we did. The King of France was kind of like saber rattling with the Pope at the time. I think his name was Pope Boniface. Kind of saber rattling with him about like, you know, well, you know, I'm going to withhold money from the church, and then him being like, well, I'm going to say you're not like, you know, divinely ordained to be king or whatever. And basically that whole situation of them like saber rattling with each other eventually culminated in a papal bull. It's like a papal, it's not an encyclical, it's like a papal document called Unum Sanctum, which is really famous in if you're like an amateur person like me going through the history of the papacy. Because Unum Sanctum basically said what you just said. Unum Sanctum basically said it was the Pope being like, to oversimplify, well, since people's souls are the most important and the Pope rules over people's souls, kind of, he's like in charge of, not rules over, but he's like in charge of stewarding, you know, shepherding, because by virtue of leading the church, then the Pope should be able to curate in some way the political affairs of these places. And in my opinion, that's kind of like a really, really interesting node to like zoom in on, because it's when that issue is forced, the exact issue you just described to me. What's the Pope's role in like temporal political politics? It's really interesting. Okay, we can talk about that more, but I want to zoom in a little bit and just make sure that we're on pace here. We were on a really good pace, and then a few people asked me some interesting things, and then we got kind of distracted. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to quickly make some compositional maneuvers. I'm going to bring up the dark color a little bit over here. So I'm just going to kind of bring it up a little bit. But what do I think about that? I don't know, man. I really, at this point, I kind of hesitate to make like big sweeping generalizations. Like people kind of always want to come out and be like, oh, well, you know how it should be. I know how it should be. And it feels really cool to do that. But I'm not really sure. I think it's kind of like a case-by-case thing, to be completely honest with you. Okay, I'm going to bring this blue out a little bit more. I was talking with someone about divine right of kings, which also kind of relates to it, where, you know, the kings are like, well, kings are divinely ordained, so X, Y, and Z. Like, you know, if God didn't want the king to be king, he wouldn't be king, you know, which is kind of a faulty argument, but whatever. I'm also oversimplifying what the argument actually is. And I was talking about it, and someone was like, yeah, actually, this was just something that they came up with because they wanted to be less tethered to the authority of the papacy. I thought that was kind of interesting. So again, it's kind of that same issue coming to fruition. But the Avignon papacy is also really dope because it syncs up with, I guess, what we can call like Illuminati history in a way, honestly, because it's right around that time. I think it's the same French king. I think his name's Clement V. I'm not totally sure because I didn't prep like talking about this. But he is the one who forces the Knights Templar underground. and it syncs up with the Avignon papacy in a way. Maybe it's just before, maybe it's during the Avignon papacy. I don't actually remember because I'm kind of just going off the cuff here. But they're related. That's when the Knights Templar gets forced underground, and that's kind of a kickoff for a lot of like esoterica, secret society stuff. You know, whether you think it's true or not, it's interesting. I'm also going to kick up the dark blue of her lines in her face back here and pick it up a little bit. And then we'll see if we want to add anything else. I just want to like move the composition along a little bit because we're getting close to 9 o'clock. Anyway, yeah, it's kind of a kickoff for a lot of like esoterica, secret society history. Again, whether or not you think it's real, it doesn't really matter. It's still interesting. Because basically the crux of it is that when they arrested all the Knights Templar, which they did, and it's actually kind of impressive. Supposedly they did it all on like the same day, which before like electronic communication is pretty cool. And they burned Jacques de Molay at the stake. Supposedly they burned him right at the river where the king could like see it from his bedroom or something. I drew a picture of that one time. So then the deal is, you know, you read that and you're like, okay, but then someone asks you, well, the Knights Templar had all this money and all these ships. They had boats even. This is the story. I'm not telling you this is true, but this is the story. All these boats and all this money and all these buildings. You know, they owned stuff. Like they were almost like a banker group almost, you know. And all of a sudden they're like forced underground. They're basically outlawed. Well, like what do you think they did? They didn't just give it all away or something, right? Like what's the deal? And that's where a lot of these like older tracing the lineage of secret society stories kick off from, because like they're like, oh well, you know what they did? The Knights Templar went underground and they became X, Y, and Z organization. So it's just kind of interesting, kind of dovetails with the Avignon papacy, like I was saying, because it's the same king. I guess the same king of France was like getting in everyone's freaking business, or in reality he was probably just worried about money because he was going to war with England. That's probably really what it was. He didn't want to give money to the Pope, and then he also didn't want the Knights Templar hanging around like with buckets full of cash and stuff, I guess. Who knows, though? But if you look into that and find anything interesting, let me know. That was one of my first like topics that I really cracked out about. I had a roommate that was studying like French history. And I was cracking about all this stuff, and I would just go in his room and I would borrow these like huge, massive tomes about like these different periods of French history, and just like go to the index and look up like Jacques de Molay and like Knights Templar. But it's low-key one of my favorite. It's probably like my favorite weird conspiracy history thing is the Knights Templar, honestly. I used to go really hard on it. Then I kind of stopped. But there's some cool stuff in there. What is it? In 1109. Is it 11 or 13 knights from Burgundy in France became the Knights Templar? That's what they tell you anyway. Alright. Shading it in. Looks pretty good. Okay. I could really crack out on that, honestly. I'm like withholding just a tiny bit. I'm like, oh, should I keep going on the Knights Templar front? But I don't know, maybe I shouldn't. There's a few interesting things. Let's see if someone asks me something. Okay. It's like that's where like literally like, you know, the Alex Jones meme where it's like when everyone at the pool party is trying to relax, but you're just so woke you have to drop another truth bomb, and his hands are like, okay, like that's literally me. It's literally me being like, okay, but here's the thing. They had all these boats, and then right after there's the age of exploration. Like, where do you think they got the money? Anyway. Okay. This is looking dope. We definitely just tightened it up quite a bit right now. Let's see. It's looking pretty sick. I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to put in a little bit of the wall down here. Not really a wall. Oh, we didn't put anything in the basket. It's just an empty basket. Okay, perfect. I'll put some fruit and stuff in the basket. I mean, right? What does anyone going to suggest? What's anyone going to suggest? What do you think about the Mayan Templar guy cursing the king and others, and then the curse came to pass? I actually don't know if I know about that. I mean, I know a little bit about it, but I don't know anything like crazy about it. But yeah, it's interesting. The whole thing, I guess I'll say what I was going to say. Someone said keep going. Yeah, so what I was going to say is that I'm going to paint in some fruit, I guess, while we're talking here really quick. Yeah, so the interesting thing is, like, so the whole other thing about the Knights Templar and why they got burned at the stake and stuff is, like, you know, this is now this is just basically like my opinion, unless I tell you that I'm referring to like a specific historical document. But the whole thing with it is that they got accused of like worshiping the devil and Baphomet and stuff like that, and that's actually like supposedly historically like where the whole Baphomet thing comes from. This is one theory. I'm not going to say this is one theory every single sentence, but basically I should, but I'm not going to. So just keep that caveat in mind. But yeah, basically the theory or the idea, the tale, really it's a tale. The tale is that the Knights Templar had this like Baphomet images that they were like worshipping and stuff like that. But then I don't think that's true, just for the record. But then the flip of it is that the theory is that that it started from them basically. The theory is kind of that it started from them having this practice of having people, the Knights Templar basically their initial job was protecting pilgrims who were going from Europe into Jerusalem. That was their initial job, and that's how they like became the cool charity for everyone to give money to, because that's a pretty noble thing to do, especially back then. So that's how they became like the charity for everyone to give money to, and that's how they got all this like land and money and all this stuff. They were like basically the cool charity to give money to, because they were protecting pilgrims going from Europe into the Holy Land. So they're right up against like these Muslim places. So my point is that basically the kind of like tale about where the whole weird religious energy came from is that they would do this thing where like they were worried about, or at least entertaining the possibility of getting captured by like Muslim forces or things like that, and if that happened, you'd have to like renounce Jesus and stuff like that, because they'd probably like make you become Muslim or something. I guess I don't really know what the logistics are here, but so they would have some kind of like ritual or ceremony or something, not really a ritual, but where they would pretend that the night that they're initiating like got captured, and supposedly it got kind of like really out of hand eventually, and people were like having these crosses and like spitting on them and like renouncing Christ, but it was just part of this like LARP role play of like, what do you do if you get captured by these Muslims? And then it kind of became like a weird secret society initiation thing. The reason I'm telling you all this is because when the Knights Templar were arrested and Jacques de Molay was burned at the stake, I'm pretty sure that was the argument against them. That I'm going to put the bow and arrow into while I'm talking here. That they were, doing like devilly worship and stuff like that, and then mainstream historians were like, oh, well, there's just craziness, people just being crazy. Like, they really weren't doing that. It was about the money and stuff like that. So I really did crack out pretty hard, being like, what's the truth here? Because, you hear stuff like that, and you always get these little grains of it. You're like, oh, maybe that's true, maybe it's not, but, what's like the truth in all this stuff? And I'm pretty sure, I'm going off the cuff right now, so you have to like look into this yourself if you want to like tell anyone about it. But I'm pretty sure where I ended up with it was that pretty recently, I think it was even post-2000 or something. I think it was pretty recently, man. They found this document. I think it's called the Chillerian document. It's like CHLL or something. And they found this document, and basically where I landed with it was I think that there is evidence that at some point one of the Knights Templars went to some church authority or some political authority or someone and told them sort of like a toned down version of what I just told you. Like, yeah, we do this kind of thing, but it's supposed to be like X, Y, and Z initiation, but it's really kind of gotten out of hand, and I kind of need your help like roping it in or something. And someone literally found that document at the Vatican, I'm pretty sure. I might be mixing up a few different stories, so don't like go look it up and then be like, oh my God, Owen said this was true and it's not true, but it's something like that. So that's where I kind of landed with it, was that I think there is some reality to them doing some initiation thing and it getting kind of out of hand. I don't actually think that's where Baphomet comes from or anything like that. Part of what you'll hear if you go into like crazy like Illuminati secret society history stuff is that Baphomet, the name, is like a corruption of Muhammad, because it's Mahomet and then it becomes Baphomet over time, and they had this like goat head and stuff like that. I don't really think all that's true, but it is a really, really interesting part of the history. It's like that's why I call it like the Illuminati mythology. Is it true? Probably not, but it's pretty cool actually, and also more importantly, it starts to inform like other secret societies' history of themselves. If you go check out some secret society stuff and they're saying like X, Y, and Z, at a certain point it doesn't really matter if it's true because they believe it's true. So if you're just checking out what they say, and then part of the other stuff, if we came this far, so we're about to be at 9 o'clock, we're about to wrap up. Part of the other thing that's kind of interesting. Again, I'm not saying this is true, but it's just interesting. I'm going to kind of like brown up the table down here too while we're talking, is so the Knights Templar go underground, right? So they're forced underground. Jacques de Molay is burned at the stake, but they have all these buildings and money and all this stuff all over Europe, right? So what happens with that? And there's all these crazy ideas about what happens with that, none of which I can confirm, but they're interesting, you know? Part of where I ended up when I was really cracking out studying about that stuff was that Portugal was like a safe place for them to go, and that they kind of like renamed their order and kind of hung out in Portugal. And I even read this guy that was saying that all the money and influence and stuff from the Knights Templar basically flowed into Portugal, and that that's part of why Portugal popped off so hard with the Age of Exploration right after. All of a sudden you had this knight order that had all these money and ships and stuff forced underground. They were able to take haven in Portugal, and then boom, all of a sudden this tiny, tiny, tiny country, which is Portugal, was like kicking ass and taking names during the Age of Exploration. Like, why is that the case? They're a tiny little country that wasn't even, you know, didn't they basically get set up like during the Crusades? Not that they didn't have a history before that, but you know, like, why did they explode on the scene with the Age of Exploration? So I'm not saying it's the case, but it's kind of a cool idea to toy around with, and that's what one person told me. Because the Knights Templar had helped fight for Portugal, and then it became established that Portugal became a haven for them, and that all the money and everything flowed into there from the Knights Templar, and that's part of why Portugal popped off so hard, especially during the Age of Exploration. I'm not saying that's true, but I'm just giving you the Illuminati mythology. Okay. Other stuff that's interesting is that you can kind of tell the story backwards too, because, you know, you have these pirates and stuff, right, all over Europe. Huge pirate force, right? But like ships are really big and expensive, and like how'd they get all these ships and stuff? And this one guy was saying that part of it, not all pirates, but part of it was the Knights Templar, who were forced underground, who then resurfaced as this like rogue semi-military naval force, appearing disorganized, but actually being the ships and money and stuff from the Knights Templar who had just been forced underground. I don't necessarily think that's true, but in terms of crazy ideas, that's one of my favorite ones. That these pirates who just came out of nowhere with these huge ships and stuff were actually partially like the Knights Templar forced underground, who then were just like raiding and taking money and stuff like that. Even if that has literally no reality to it whatsoever, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to imagine, actually. Okay. And by the way, if you're intrigued by that, if me going off and talking about all that stuff, you're like, oh, it's really interesting. Basically what you kind of have to do is you kind of have to actually talk to like people who are like a little crazy and get their kind of like story of events, and like, oh, the Freemasons are really the Knights Templar, you know, and take little bits of that information and then go into like historical stuff and see what's true and what's not. That's basically what you have to do. You kind of have to go to the crazy spectrum and then bring it back and be like, okay, what's true here and what's not. I did that for a long time. I spent a lot of time doing that. There's even theories, like this is the last one I'll say, but there's even theories like, you know, the Knights Templar had all these buildings and money and stuff like that, so they were forced underground, so they needed places to go and places to stay and stuff, and that there's a connection there between like, you know, Freemasonry halls. Funny, we got the checkerboard here. Freemasonry halls and Freemasonry buildings. Like, what are they called? What the place where Freemasons meet? What's it called? It's not really called a temple. They have temples, but their meeting places are called lodges. And what this other guy was saying was that they were literally lodges for the defunct and outlawed now organization of the Knights Templar, that they needed places to stay, so they literally set up lodges and stuff. I don't know if that's true, but again, it's just kind of cool. It's just a cool idea, whether it's true or not. If you're toying with like creative stuff and writing and art and things like that, sometimes it's cool to just check out like the craziest ideas you possibly can, because they kind of open up like different avenues of like creative thinking in your mind. Anyway, really went off there a little bit, but it's all good. Okay, I'm going to go through the chat really quick. I think we might be done. It actually is looking pretty sick here. It's looking pretty good. But let's see. I'm going to go through the chat really quick. I'm going to look back here, and then we'll see. Maybe we'll wrap it up. We started like 5-10 minutes late, so if we end 5-10 minutes late, it's all good. Okay, going through the chat. What do you think about the Templar guy? I read that one. Was Ubisoft Assassin's Creed series a long play by the ruling powers to psyop Gen Z and millennials into esoteric anti-Catholic history and bloodline worship? It's really cool chat message, but I never played that game, so I can't tell you. Someone said, bro, don't hold back. Nice. My favorite thing is the king. So someone said, don't hold back. I'm assuming that's before I kind of talked about all that stuff, but if you want to Other just a little cool tidbit. Bill Clinton, when he was a kid, was in an organization called the Order of Desmoulins, which is named after Jacques Desmoulins, who we just talked about getting burned at the stake. So you can look into that if you want. That makes more sense, but oh, that's not for me. My favorite thing is the king owed a lot of money to the Templars, had an advanced banking system and stuff. Yeah, they said they worship the devil. Yeah, that's probably like the material explanation, honestly. If I remember correctly, only the French Templars were considered guilty of heresy, mostly because it was done by France and not actually the church. Yeah, I think that is true. I don't know what their situation with the church was long term, though, actually. Off the cuff, I don't know. Malay cursed King Philip and Pope Clement V, and exactly 1 year later, Clement died of illness and Philip died of a stroke. Yeah, that's true, actually. And I even heard that when they burned the Knights Templar leader at the stake, it was Friday the 13th, and that kind of plays into Friday the 13th stuff, but now we're just doing, like, folk etymology, folk history instead of real history, which is kind of more fun. Okay. Pope ended the order. Yeah, he did eventually. Thanks for going off. Super interesting. No problem. Ties into Skull and Bone Society, Pirates Templar. Yeah, what kind of like crazy people will tell you is, I mean, I'm using crazy like lovingly. I'm obviously a little crazy. Is that the Skull and Bones, it plays into this story of when they went back to go get Jacques Desmoulins' bones or something after he was burned to death, like the thigh bones were missing, so the skull and the thigh bones is like Jacques Desmoulins' bones or something. If you really want to go hard on this, what you should check out is a guy named Bill Cooper, who's like the original really crazy conspiracy guy from back in the day. His name's Bill Cooper. Has a show called Hour of the Time, and he talks about all this stuff. I use the word crazy a lot, but he is actually like kind of a little schizo, like he's a little over into like I'm actually a little insane territory, and he died in like a shootout with the cops and stuff, which I obviously unironically like disavow. But he has a whole series called Hour of the Time. That's a radio show all about like secret societies and stuff like that. It's kind of hard to go through, but it's really, if you're like intrigued by what I'm talking about, that's mostly actually where all this is coming from, and a few other things. But that's one place you can kind of dig in there, and a lot of people don't know about it, so it's kind of cool. Okay. Maybe a necklace can unite the different parts, going from part to part. Oh, that's interesting, actually. Yeah, maybe. I would think about that, but the problem is the jumping off point here is going to be so much lower than over here, so it won't be symmetrical. And I have this rabbit ear, so I would have to come down right under the rabbit ear. It would be kind of dope if I just took the yellow. Maybe I will. I'm kind of warming up to it. If I took the yellow like that and just came around, it's a little risky. I can't tell if I should do that or not. I don't want it to get too messy. I could put the necklace like click behind the stuff. I'm not going to do it because now that I put in a little line, I'm worried that it won't read as a necklace. I'm worried it'll read as the outline of a shape and that it will create a shape down here, so I'm not going to do it, but that is a pretty cool idea. You should do a print of St. Maximilian Kolbe. Yeah, he's a cool guy, actually. Maybe I will. Unironically disavow. Bro, I'm dying here. Yeah, I do. I don't avow dying in a shootout with the cops. That is not a good time for a variety of reasons. Okay. That was a fun little tour through Knights Templar world. Didn't see that coming. You know, honestly, I feel like this is one of those ones where it kind of just came together. It's looking pretty good. The white over here kind of works as the snow. We got this motion-y, the arrow with the ship and the compass, feather in the book. Kind of oddly is like Thanksgiving transitioning from end of fall to winter vibe. Even the color really lands right on that spot of like transitioning from fall to winter. We got these like powerful. This for me is like, this is like winter color right here. When you get the dark blue releasing via some other blue into the white, that's like winter just perfectly encapsulated for me. Oh, not the paint's over. It's okay though. Perfectly encapsulated. And then we got the warmer colors with the browns. I think we're done here. It's kind of, sometimes the paintings kind of finish themselves. Even the peacock's eye got this ring of pigment in the center. I was thinking I'd put something above the peacock, but I think we're gonna call it. Yo, actually, sorry. I know the last thing we're gonna do right now. Really lightly, what I'm gonna do, really quickly. I'm gonna do this really quick. I'm going to throw in sort of light, kind of like painted in the book. Perfect. It's literally the exact opacity that I wanted. And I'm going to get this red over here. I'm going to dull it down a little bit because I'm going to paint in just a super light. Perfect. Literally perfect. I'm just going to paint in a super light American flag into the book. Kind of going from one page to the other. Yeah. Oh, so subtle. Yes. Oh. Oh. Nice. That's it. Threw it on the paintbrush. We're done. Looks dope. That right side of winter feels great. Word up, guys. All right. Well, it's 9:06. We started 5 minutes late. We are ending 5 minutes late. It's perfect with me, though. Oh, wait. I always forget to move this. You just got to move the paint thing away so we can see it without stuff around it. It just makes it so much nicer just to actually see what it looks like without all the visual noise. All right. We did it. Good job, team. Good job, everyone. This is actually dope. This is a really good one. Oh, I'm loving the seasonal vibe that we got here. It's exactly how I feel right now. All right. Let's see. Anything else I missed in the chat? People said it looks dope. Amazing, man. I've been watching your stuff a lot recently. You've revived my love of art. Word up. Yeah, eventually I want to do an episode soon. A few people asked me, but I want to do an episode again on materials. I did one on materials way in the beginning, but now I have like better lighting. And also I just want to do one specifically about like, so you want to get into drawing and painting, what should you go buy? So I'm probably going to do that soon. Not to show my emo side and bring on my age, but MCR, but they split up recently and recently reunited. Their reunion theme was men with skull masks, Templar crosses on their robes doing witchcraft. Interesting. Perfectly fitting. I never listened to them. I'm a little bit probably older than you, actually. All right. Oh, yeah. I'm going to go have pie. That's a perfect note to end on. Someone said, care to share what kind of pie? I think my wife made pumpkin pie with pecans, as it were. Pecans, depending on where you live in the U.S. But I don't really eat sugar for a variety of reasons. So I think she used honey or something. I'm not really sure. I'm going to go check it out right now. Anyway, that's the show. Fall is over. Soon. We end, not yet. But for the painting show, fall is over. But after this week, get your fall vibes in, because after this week, we're moving on to winter, and we're going to explore winter themes, Advent, Christmas, but not too soon. I'm not a seasonal accelerationist. Let's soak in Thanksgiving. Winter's peeking over the horizon. So enjoy the rest of your night, guys. Thanks a lot for coming. I love doing the show. Thank you so much for coming through, spending some time with me. But now we return to our seasonal lives, our Thanksgiving week. Please enjoy the rest of your evening. And I will catch you guys on the internet where we all hang out together. Thanks for coming, and I'll see you guys later.